Well, good evening. Live right now. Welcome to Takeover TV. We are the secondary commentary team for when you're watching the footy. Yeah, your footy on your telly and us on your phone or your tablet or your laptop. We've got a massive game tonight. It's the replay of last year's prelim final, GWS Giants versus Collingwood. And what a lineup we've got. My name's Sergio Paradise. And, of course, first up, we've got the great man, Mark Finey Fine, the man with a memory of an elephant and a complexion to match. Up in the other corner, we've got the 180-game Collingwood superstar, Renee, the Incredible Hulk Kink. Not Renee Hink, Renee Kink. That would be it. And down below, I'll get it right one of these days. And, of course, a man who needs no introduction, so we won't give him one, the great man, Kevin Bartlett. Gentlemen, welcome along tonight.
Thanks, Serge.
Great to be here.
Now, it's going to be a big game, as we said. Before we kick it off, Kevin, we'll probably throw to you here because you've got the most experience of any of us here. Very sad news yesterday with the passing of the official legend, John Kennedy, the former Hawthorn superstar coach and North Melbourne premiership coach.
What an iconic figure he's been, and, obviously one of the absolute greats of the game. And, of course, only a month ago or a couple of weeks back anyway, he was, of course, a legend in the Australian Football Hall of Fame. I spent 5 years on the Hall of Fame with John Kennedy. He was chairman of the Hall of Fame committee. He was a magnificent person. Being in his company was really, really uplifting. And I was fortunate enough when I was playing, play interstate football when John was actually coaching Victoria. I spoke to him once, I interviewed him once about, his love of the Hawthorn Football Club. And he told me an interesting story that when he first started playing at Hawthorn, obviously they were the easy beats of the competition. And he got sick of people patting him on the shoulder, saying condescending things to him. Oh, you did pretty well today. Oh, that wasn't bad for Hawthorn. And it just grated on him that, people were just condescending to Hawthorn. And as a result, he wanted Hawthorn to be a powerhouse, someone to be respected. They weren't respected in the competition. And he hated people being condescending towards the mighty Hawthorn Football Club. And that's what drove him as a player and then drove him as a coach to give credibility to the Hawthorn Football Club.
So the honourable loss was never a thing for John Kennedy.
No, not at all.
It's an ugly phrase we occasionally hear now, but back then you're talking sort of the 60s in those days, and it didn't rub well with him then.
Well, when he played in the 50s as well, I mean, they were a very unsuccessful club and didn't win their first premiership, of course, until 1961 when John Kennedy actually took over and coached them. But it was something that drove him, that he wanted Hawthorn to be respected in the competition. Up until that point of time, he never felt that. And Melbourne was, the dominant side. They played in grand finals in 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, and won again in 64, as you know, as a Melbourne supporter. But he always didn't like the silver spoons, maybe, of the MCC, because they were winning all these premierships and people were being condescending to his club, of course, which was Hawthorn. And as I said before, that's what drove him to success. He never wanted anyone at Hawthorn ever forget it. That there was a period of time when they weren't respected and it had to be earned, and they earned it.
Was he an intimidating figure as a coach? Sorry, Reno. Was he an intimidating figure?
Well, I think he was a respected figure, intimidating in terms of his oratory skills. I mean, he had that big baritone voice, didn't he? So, when he spoke, a bit like Alan Jeans, they had that strong voice. They had the inflections all the time. Obviously, great wordsmiths at the same time. And as a result, I heard the other day that Dermot Brereton was saying that in all the times he knew John Kennedy, heard him speak to him as young players and around the club, that never ever heard him swear once in his entire life to get any sort of message across to a playing group or a group of people. He never swore, but he had the turn of phrase and he had the voice and he had the presence.
Exactly.
My take on it, Kevin, I believe, and you may remember this possibly, that in 1983, or just prior to 1983, the start of the season, Collingwood interviewed John Kennedy to coach them.
Yep.
I don't know if you're aware of that. And there was some disfaction amongst the committee in regards to the numbers as to say yes or no. And they ended up going with John Carl. But I'm also very, very sure that he was in this position to come to Collingwood and coach.
My understanding, my understanding of that, and I don't know whether Finey knows the story, but my understanding of that was that Len Thompson, I think, was part of the selection committee and had quite a big role and a forceful voice around Collingwood at the time. And I think he had spoken to John Kennedy. And my understanding was that, you know, with their conversations that he had, maybe Thurl Merritt might have been with him too. I'm not quite certain who, but I think John Kennedy was under the impression, the way my understanding of the story is that, you know, they wanted him to be coach of Collingwood and he would be coach of Collingwood. And then he got asked to come down to Collingwood to speak to maybe the president and some other people, other board members, went down there and sat down there, and they're sort of asking him about, you know, in the mix to sort of be the coach. So
can you coach?
I think he said, look, there's a problem here at this club. I mean, I've got a feeling that Len Thompson then were appointing him as coach, and then there was another part of the committee who didn't know that, you know, and they're just having a chat to him. So I think this is going to be too hard. This is going to be too hard, and I think he walked away from it because he thought they were a mess.
Yeah, they did. He did walk away from it allegedly. He wasn't happy with them. And there was that, as you said, that little bit of faction amongst them, the argument about should we or shouldn't we. And, of course, they went with John Carl and they paid him an absolute fortune too, because he came from Port Adelaide and won 6 or 7 premierships over there.
Yeah,
and I played
very successful.
Yeah, I played on him for a short time before I went to Essendon halfway during that year. And I found him to be a delightful person, great tennis player because I played a lot of tennis with him. But I just couldn't communicate with him in terms of and understand what he wanted. His big catch cry was hit the ball hard. Well, you know, I really do sort of have a go at hitting the ball hard and anything in my way as well. But it just couldn't resonate with me, and I just lost my way, and it was time for me to go, like a lot of my other teammates had gone as well.
Rene, I think he was talking about your tennis.
I was just about to say, Finey, I'm just trying to picture Rene in a pair of those snug little Bjorn Borg type tennis shorts.
Oh, yeah, the wide volleys, what a look.
I reckon
actually, he did. Well, he certainly liked his tennis. And I mean, his son, Darren, of course, was a great player and, of course, a great coach now. Coaches Simona Halep, who, you know, won the French and is a major champion. But I can remember playing tennis with him one day down at Paran, down at Leggett's down there at Paran. And he was, I think I played with Sam Newman against John Cale and can't recall who else it was. But obviously he loved tennis, and that obviously is that love came through his son in Darren.
Yeah, but John was a delightful person. You know, I just loved him as a fella. But unfortunately, I just said to him, look, I can't play in you, John, because I'm not resonating with you with what you're, you know, putting across to me and what you wanted from me. And I just, of course, come off Tommy and you know, chalk and cheese with Tommy.
Mm. But they made the finals finally, didn't they, under John Cale the first year?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
did they?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think
he was better than Murray.
And West Fellows won the best and fairest, the Copeland. First year, West.
Yeah. I've got a John Kennedy story. I'm relaying it to Jeffrey Poulter, you know, a good friend of ours and a former editor of the Herald Sun. And this is when John Kennedy was at North Melbourne. And Jeff Poulter does a great John Kennedy, so I hope I do it some justice. But he famously one night said, if you look around, you'll see that John Moore isn't here. He's not here because he's back with the flight of the ball. He's not here because he's in hospital. He's a courageous boy, is John, and he may not play this weekend, but then again, he just may.
Well, Jeff Poulter loves North Melbourne, doesn't he?
Now, players are out on the ground here, gentlemen. How do we feel about this game tonight? Because the Giants have got back some pretty big names, and Mason Cox is back for Collingwood. You'd have to, on paper, tip Collingwood in this game, wouldn't you not?
Well, from my point of view, I believe so. But look, Mumford back and
Kobe Green.
Toby Green and
Josh
Kelly.
Kelly, of course. He's a football magnet. He gets the ball. Big Cox.
Whitford didn't play last week.
Who's that?
The boy off the halfback flank. He got KO.
Whitfield.
Yeah.
Oh, Lockie Whitfield, yeah.
I think both sides are very strong. And they'll be very desperate for a win, GWS. But of course, we're rolling along nicely, and Big Cox is an interesting in. I'm not really sure about that, but he's put him in for a reason.
The Giants have won 4 of the last 5 games against Collingwood, so they've had the wood on them in some respect.
Yeah.
This is the first Friday night game they've played up there at Giants Stadium as well. And the interesting one for me, Serge and Finey and Renee, is that Mumford has come into the side. I thought Sam Jacobs was a good pickup because I thought Mumford towards the end of last year couldn't get off the ground. And I thought, well, Jacobs will give him first use of the ball. But he's been so poor over the last couple of weeks that Mumford is back in the side. And one thing we know about Mumford, he'll give him some grunt around the ball.
Well, he got that first tap out just then at the start of the match.
But it'll be his physicality around the ball, which over the last couple of weeks they've lost that, the Giants, and I've got a feeling they feel a bit taller when he's out there.
Make no bones about it. Collingwood was superb last week, and they've started exactly the same way with Stevenson on the lead. He hasn't managed to kick this goal, but Mason Cox might.
Oh, he had a couple of cracks at it.
Yeah, you can see why he's not a soccer player.
One of the funny things that we just saw there on the goal line there where the Giants are trying to get the ball and Collingwood's trying to kick a goal, and a couple of times you got socked off the ground and ricocheted off feet. I'm surprised the number of players that don't understand the rule of rushing behind. I mean, the Giants should have rushed that ball through for a behind, 10 seconds before it actually got rushed through for a behind.
Yeah, they were under pressure. They could have just banged it through.
They nearly gave up a goal by just simply not just turning around and handballing it through. I mean, they're one foot away from the goal line.
Darcy Moore is really on the improve, I think, and if he could hold that centre half-back position now, that'll make a big difference for us by the end of the year in terms of where we sit in the top 5 and who we play in the finals. Because I really think he's coming of age now. Got to have his injuries.
I must say, from a personal point of view, that I'm really thrilled to see Tom Green playing for the Giants. Michael Green, of course, is his grandfather. Played in 4 Richmond premierships. Toby
Green, Kevin.
Tom Green.
Oh, sorry, Tom Green.
Yeah, Tom Green.
Yeah.
He's his grandson.
Yeah,
that's right. So I'm just thrilled, that his grandson's been able to come through. And he played in the opening game, of course, but then didn't get in the side after the long break with the virus. But he's back in the side. He's a big kid. He's one of those big midfielders, and I think he's going to be part of the future. He's a very, very good young player, Tom Green.
I'll tell you what, that's an interesting matchup too.
I like seeing family members play and the history of fathers and sons and grandfathers. And I mean, Collingwood's had so many of them over the years, haven't they? With the Collier brothers and the Toomey brothers and the Richards and
the Richards. Yeah.
I mean,
I reckon it's one of the great things about our game of footy, the AFL football, is that there is that family, the father-son rule, and goes through. I mean, there's very few, probably if any, other professional sporting organisations around the world where that occurs.
Well, it is great.
I think it's terrible.
We'd probably be the only.
Shocking father-son record. Only 3 players under father-son: Serakowski, Chad Davis, and Bailey Rice.
What about Michael Roberts? Was he father and son?
That was before father-son.
Yeah. Was he? We'd be the only sport in the world that would have father-son, wouldn't we?
Oh, that's what I said, Renato. I can't think of another one because normally it's all just, in America you've got the college drafting system and what have you. There's no such thing as the,
maybe European soccer surge, maybe.
Possibly, but again, I think it's pretty much money.
Anywhere else. And the beautiful thing is we've got father-daughter now as well, and all those permutations.
Yeah.
I think we should have grandfather-grandson. We should go back to a grandfather-grandson, and not just father and son, but grandfather-grandson. I think would be good for the game. And the other thing, just on that, Finey, it's 100 games to be eligible under father and son. Is that too many games?
Well, it was originally 25, I think, for a short period, then 50 for quite a while. That's how Brian Brown was able to get his son to Brisbane, Jonathan Brown, by the skin of... Oh, that's better by Jeremy Cameron. Good mark there. Oh, no, a free kick. Oh, jeepers. That must have been holding in the contest by, I don't know who. Yeah, now they've got a problem. But, it's 100 too many. Hey, when you consider, under the current rules, John Coleman's son, if he was a champion, couldn't have played for Essendon, you'd say yes, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon 50 sounds about right, you know. I mean, it means you've played enough footy there to be a part of the club and have made a genuine contribution to the club, but you don't have to have been a long-term superstar to have that family connection. I reckon 50 sounds about right. You know,
it's not easy to play AFL football. Even if you play one game, it's a fantastic effort. So I just wonder. I mean, obviously, if you played one game and your son could play for that same club, I mean, you might have a connection to it. I'm not against that. I mean, it doesn't mean the kid has to go there. I mean, even though it's a father and son, you can be claimed. We saw Brisbane Lions trying to claim Mark Murphy, and he didn't want to go to the Brisbane Lions, so he went into the draft. But you know, sometimes I think maybe 100 games is far too many.
Yeah.
If it was one game, the draft would be so compromised, really. I mean, you think, gee, there's so many players. Brett DeLevio could have played for Carlton, of course. Matthew Lloyd would have played for Carlton.
Yes, he could have, yeah.
Just a handful of games.
Yeah.
There's so many players would have been elsewhere.
I mean, you could play for him, Finey, but I mean, you don't have to.
That's the point. Played for Collingwood.
Big pardon?
Warren Treadray would have played for Collingwood.
Yes, he may have. I mean, at the same time, he might have had a greater pull for Port Adelaide than Collingwood. You know, the same that obviously Mark Murphy didn't have that feeling for the Brisbane Lions at that stage and went to Carlton. So it would be interesting.
Yep.
From a purely sorry, Renee, but from a purely spectator's romantic point of view, it is great to hear the name Dacos out there when you're watching a Collingwood game today.
And Brown.
And Brown, yeah, exactly. And more, you know.
It just caught my attention, Kevin. We spoke last week about how we could possibly change the game to make it a better game. And I was looking at last night's game, as I think we all were, and I just couldn't believe how thick and congested both forward lines, back lines were, particularly late in the game. I could count anywhere between 15 and 25, 30 players in those congested forward line areas. I just couldn't believe how bad it was, and it just makes the game look so ugly. As you can see now, looking at this game, it's just getting more and more contested as they're contesting it more vigorously as they go forward.
Well, that's the nature of the game. I've been speaking about that for a long, long time. Generally, you find about 32 players within 35 metres of the ball. You know, last night's game between Sydney and the Bulldogs, you know, probably for the first 10 minutes of the opening quarter, the amount of possessions that both sides had without any scoring would have been quite extraordinary. But at the moment, that's normal, and it's quite normal for a side to not score a goal in a quarter, or maybe not even score a goal in a couple of quarters, or even a half of football. Sometimes one goal in 3 quarters. I mean, that's part of the abnormal has become the normal.
Yeah, but it's not making the game attractive to anyone. You know, especially as we're watching it without a crowd, you're really shake your head and think, God, where's it heading?
It's been quite a good start by the Giants because the last couple of weeks they've been very, very poor. Again, I don't know whether it's because obviously Whitfield's back in the side and you've got Toby Green back in the side and Josh Kelly back in the side. And then, of course, you've got the physical size of Mumford. But I would say, Finey, that they've matched Collingwood so far.
Absolutely. It's again, Collingwood are so dangerous when they break with those fast forwards. 2 leads by Stevenson. You know, we haven't seen DeGoey have a shot yet. He did pass one of those balls, but they're very dangerous going into the forward line, aren't they, Collingwood? They've really got. I think the tall forward at the moment is surplus to needs. When you have a look at how well their forward line sets up with Mychek playing further down the ground. How do you like the look of the Coleman medal? Papley after 4 games got 10 goals and a big lead.
The thing is, Mark, that there's plenty of players of high quality that play on the forward line in all sides, but it's so congested. It's so hard for them to take a contested mark or even to spot up a mark that's been driven in or kicked in unless the break comes through the middle quickly or through the outside, especially as you see the other week when we saw Hawthorn do that with their captain, the left footer on the wing.
Which is why Collingwood was so great last week. You know, they were able to break and hit players on the lead in the forward line.
And they can open the space up.
Yeah, they're very fast and they use the ball beautifully.
I must say that was one of the things that I enjoyed. I was broadcasting a game between the Gold Coast last week in Adelaide. And one of the things I did enjoy was the fact they've got Big Ben King up there, who's about 6'7", and they kicked the ball to him as a 6'7", player. They wanted to get the ball quickly down there, long down there. They kicked the ball well weighted in front of him or to the side so he could run onto the ball. And he took some terrific marks, at full stretch. I mean, if you've got these players down there, I mean, Tommy Hafer used to say that there's not much point Paul Salmon charging out from the goal square, taking bullet-like passes on his knees. You can get Peter Bakos can actually do that if you want that. But if you're 6'7", kick the ball to him, in the air.
Put it up high.
65 metres, put it up high, and that's where you'll do his damage. And if he doesn't mark it, then it falls to the ground. Then get the little player, to have a chance to, get the crumb. But I thought the way that the Suns played and utilised Ben King was very, very good.
Yeah, both the King boys can play, Kev. They're both very, very good. Got a hell of a lot of potential going forward.
What do you think of Max Finey down at St Kilda?
Yeah, he's only about to play his 4th game. He's like Ben, isn't he? I mean, Max is also very good on the grounds. Yeah. But fingers crossed. I've seen with Paddy McCartan, a recent memory. As a St Kilda supporter, you've got your hearts in your mouth every time the big fella goes for the ball. Obviously, completely different situation.
Now, gentlemen, I think I mentioned to you last week how I saw a fair bit of the King brothers playing schoolboy footy. There's one other now, who's been Matt Rowell hasn't he suddenly come on in leaps and bounds the last couple of weeks? I saw him play against the King brothers, and he didn't do much that day. But Noah Anderson was the difference between the two sides, who went the number 2 draft pick. So I reckon there's plenty of upside still with Noah Anderson to come. Even though Matt Rowell's just been sensational the last couple of weeks. For number 1 draft pick, he's absolutely, and so many of them take a little while to fit in, but he's absolutely shown why he went number 1 already.
Well, he's got 10 coaches' votes 2 weeks in a row, which is an extraordinary effort. The young boy hunts the football, charges after it. He's strong. He's got wide shoulders already. He's got a hunger for the game. And we saw last week he kicked 2 great goals on his non-preferred side as well, which is always a good thing to see. And I suppose the question was posed last week by Matthew Richardson to me, because we were broadcasting that game. Is Matt Rowell now the best midfielder for the Gold Coast Suns? And if so, he'll get targeted and he might get tagged by the opposition. But I think of what we've seen, he's the best
Well,
midfielder for the Gold Coast.
At the moment, he is no question.
Yeah, you'd have to say yes. But did you see that piece of play a couple of minutes ago when Grundy put his knee in the turf? See, that didn't look good at all. But a big clod of turf and sand came up. That looks like that's a
It was
very
a fair divot, wasn't it?
twisting surface. That didn't look like something a player would want to see at all.
That's a great mark. That was a good play. I was thrilled to see that bit of action in because Tom Green, as I said before, the grandson of Michael Green, he's a big kid. He's about 6'3" and he's a tough midfielder, bit like Patrick Cripps and those sorts of guys. Getting that ball out, and then Josh Kelly, the spearing kick, and then of course you've got Cameron who just took that mark on the stretch. The thing I always like about Jeremy Cameron, I know I could moz him here, is that he doesn't need many touches because he's such a great kick.
Well, he's lost that mustache.
That might put him off.
Especially for a left footer.
No, he got it there.
But he's one of those players that, you may not sight him. He's a bit of an enigma in many ways, even though he's ball Australian on a couple of occasions, because there's games where, you watch him play and he doesn't touch the ball for half a football and you think, you know what, he's got no idea. Looks like he's been parachuted in from the States. Then he comes out after half time and he takes 9 marks and he kicks 5 goals. And then you think, you know what, you think he might be the best centre-half forward we've ever seen.
And Kevin, you talk about his kicking, and he's a left footer. And I was talking to someone the other day, and we were trying to remember most great and successful full forwards over the journey have been right footers. Your gun left footers tend to be midfielders or half forwards or half backs. But Jeremy Cameron is, I think that's half the reason he is such a beautiful kick. He's straight off that lovely left foot.
Tiny, who has been the great left foot full forward? Peter Sumich comes to mind.
Just a moment there. There is a small crowd at GWS, and apparently you can get in tonight if you've captained Australia in Test cricket.
Yeah. I just caught a glimpse of Steve Waugh sitting in the crowd on his own.
Yeah, Steve on his own, social distancing.
Getting back to
the great left footers.
Yeah,
Sorry, a great
Left foot full forwards, finally, you know.
Was there a Connor one?
Oh, what,
George Young? George Young, was he a left footer?
No.
No.
Was there a guy down at Geelong called Noel Racing? Was he a left footer?
I think he was. I think.
They at Geelong one day put Gavin Exel to full forward against Hawthorn, that big game out at Princes Park, and I think he kicked 9 goals.
I was about to say, he kicked a bag, didn't he? He kicked more goals in that game than I reckon he did for the rest of the season.
He might have too. Yes, he played at full forward, and I think Hawthorn might have got up and won the game. I think that was a game where they might have kicked. Did they kick 22 goals each that day? It was an extraordinary game.
Can you imagine that happening today? What a shootout that would be, 22 goals each. Unheard of these days.
That'd take a month.
Well, don't forget in the 72 grand final that Carlton beat Richmond. There was 50 goals kicked. They kicked 28, and we only kicked 22.
Well, Richmond kicked the second highest score in grand final history. The problem was that the highest was the team that was playing from that day.
Yeah. Good point. Well, we've got just under 3 minutes left in the first quarter, and Collingwood haven't kicked a goal yet, and the Giants have kicked 1. And this is one of the things I'm talking about, the modern game of football. This becomes the normal, a lot of arm wrestles, a lot of keepings off, a lot of handballs, a lot of short kicks, but not a great deal of scoring. But this is the way football is played today, and it's not unusual. I mean, we saw the Sydney Swans last night kick 1 point in the first quarter. Collingwood at the moment's kicked 2 points, and they're favourite to win the flag. So they may not score a goal in the opening quarter.
Doesn't look like it.
And against Richmond, and against Richmond, Serge, they kicked 1 goal in 3 quarters.
Oh, good mark by Darcy Moore.
He's taken about 3 or 4 now already in this first quarter. I'll tell you, there's one great matchup out there that is at some point is going to end up in tears or at least pushing and shoving, and that's Toby Green against Braden Maynard. A couple of masterminds there going head-to-head.
Become a really important player for them, Maynard. Look at the gully. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And Stevenson, how dangerous is he? He seems to get on the end of just so many.
He just read that very well then.
He did straight off the foot. He knew. And bang, he did that easy too.
So 1 goal apiece. 1 point the difference with the Giants, 9 playing 8.
Yeah, I thought the Giants had come to play tonight.
They made him earn his spot back in the side, didn't they? They brought him back last week. He struggled last year. Obviously, when he came back, there was the gambling issues and that. But they sort of made him earn his spot a bit there, Renee, which their forward line always looks better with Jaden Stevenson because of that exhilarating pace he's got. You know,
he's got a bit of speed. He's got some speed. He's got some skill too. You know, he's not afraid to contest a mark and put his body in for. He's not very thick in the body, but he really does put his body into a contest. And he's a quite achiever.
Well, he won the NAB Rising Star, so I mean, obviously he was seen as an outstanding young player in his first year. Not everyone goes on in their second or third or fourth years to be maybe as outstanding as they were from the pack in their first year. But I think he's going to be one of those Rising Star winners that'll play a lot of very, very good football.
Yeah, we need a lot more out of Jagowie at the moment. I think he can do a lot more, but he's been well held too. So.
Oh, gee, Chris, you got turned around then.
Well, the Magpie backline's been the strongest this year, hasn't it? It's been people haven't been able to penetrate their backline at all. So that's going to be a great test for the Giants to see if they can actually, kick a score against the Pies. There's a nasty gash there to Taylor Adams. Remind me of Francis Burke.
Back in your day, play on.
We would have just wiped that away with the sleeve of the jumper.
Was that at Arden Street?
Yeah, that was Francis Burke. He got a shocking eye injury. It split right open, and it was the gash was so big that the eyebrow fell down over his eye, and he couldn't see.
Like a veranda.
He was holding up the skin, so he could and.
Talking about Jaden Stevenson having a bit of skill, Renee. Did you see that one?
Yeah, so there was a real boomerang that. But I like it.
Now, Kevin, just talking about that gash on Francis Burke's face, is it true that the trainer went to wipe him all down with a towel and he said, "Nah, just leave it. Just leave it."
Well, he couldn't wipe it. There was blood everywhere. He did have a towel to try and wipe it because what happened was the ball came down, and I think he actually took a mark, like a chest mark, and he had to go back and have a shot for goal. And he couldn't see because he, as you said, he had a veranda down over the top of his eye, and there was blood everywhere. I've got a feeling he may have even kicked the goal. It might have been about 15, 20 metres out, but it was a hell of a gash. I remember one day, because those times were different, that Billy Barrett playing at the MCG against Essendon, Kenny Fletcher went to kick the ball off the ground and missed and kicked Billy in the head and opened up a huge gash on his cheek. And they just stitched him up on the sidelines. Then he went back and kept playing.
He was a hard nut, Billy Barrett.
Just stitched him up.
Yeah.
These days, of course, you can go down in the rooms, but in those days, if you came off and someone came on, well, then obviously you're off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Of course, that was the 19th and 20th man. There was no interchange, of course.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think.
If you can see the scoreboard, you didn't have to know the score on the scoreboard, but if you could actually see the scoreboard, that was good enough.
It was the old, how many fingers am I holding up? Well, close enough. As long as you get within 3.
So, Serge, how do you see that quarter? How do you surmise that quarter so far?
Oh, I reckon. Both teams sort of did enough, and it went. Giants started off really well. Couldn't, neither side really scored much. It was sort of just back and forth, bouncing between the half back lines. And I reckon Mumford did a fair bit of work in the middle against Brody Grundy. Just didn't beat him in the centre at the centre bounces or around the ground, but just using his big body, as you said, Kevin, I reckon he did enough just to put Grundy off a fair bit. He just didn't. His midfielders, Pendlebury and Cyborn, they just didn't get fed as well as they normally do. But it's a bit of an arm wrestle, you got to say.
But with the GWS ruckman, he certainly has followers once he starts running through a few, knocking a few over. That's what I love about him. He's a bold sort of player.
He's a big boy.
So if he keeps that up, well, it'll be an interesting contest.
How many sausages did he eat, Finey? In some barbecue down at Geelong?
He had that record down at Bunyip, and that's sort of what kept him off the AFL list for a while. But I think it was like 32 roll or something, in the bread. Would have been
what's the name of the guy over in America? Is it Jimmy Chestnut or Johnny Chestnut? Some guy that holds the hot dog.
I've actually seen him live, Joey Chestnut.
When he was on tour, Finey, or how did you see him live?
No, I was in New York. It's funny, I was in New York, and the day before, July the 4th, I read that at Coney Island, they had the World Hot Dog Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And that it was on at 3 o'clock. And I assumed you just go down there, there'd be a few blokes eating hot dogs, a crowd of about 40 people, something you'd expect in like at Brandon Park Shopping Centre. I got down there. There was 10,000 people. I ended up having to watch it on a TV in a pub about 150 metres from the pier. I could have just watched it back at the hotel room. But his big opposition was a Japanese bloke called, I think fans of Usual Suspects are like this, Kobayashi. And
when Mummy went into a little bit of a retirement, I was able to see, I think he had 2 fights, but I was able to see one of his boxing matches.
Yeah.
At the pavilion, and he took on a journeyman who likes to step in and fight anyone which you must admire. He's no good, but at the same time, he steps in at late notice, and he took on Mummy. He was about 10 inches shorter than Mummy, and a big boy, but he took it up to Mummy for a while. But Mummy came out throwing him like a windmill, absolute windmill. And they were all over the place because you don't realise how big a guy he is. He is a big fella.
Can he actually fight, Rene? Can he fight?
No, he can't fight at all, Kevin. No.
You've done a lot of boxing, and I think you, at one stage in your life, you thought you'd rather be a boxer than a footballer. But you used to spar with Jimmy Thunder, who was the heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I did for about nearly 5 years. I sparred Jimmy. And
he recently, didn't he?
Sorry.
Didn't Jimmy Thunder pass away just recently?
Yes, he did, Mark. Sorry, I didn't hear that. He passed away about 2 months ago. He had a brain operation and didn't come out of it, which very sad. Because the last part of his life and his career was in America looking for sparring partners at $25 an hour. That's how bad he was going. Very, very sad.
He holds the record for the fastest ever knockout.
No, he held one of the fastest.
Yeah.
Also, he got knocked down as one of the fastest too ever.
So, well, there you go.
He's taken it both ways. But he's lovely fight.
That's nice to know. It was a great day for Australian boxing today, by the way, this afternoon.
Did he win?
The two Maloney twins went over. The boys from Turntree Gully, and Andrew lost a few days ago, but Jason had a great win. Yeah, a great
He
win.
beat the guy because the guy who's fighting today was Mexican as well.
Yeah, and he beat him. The guy didn't come out after the break at the end of the 7th round, and he just pummeled him. He went to the body, then he got him all over. He really was all over him.
Well, Andrew actually dominated the super flyweight world championship, WBA. He dominated it for 7 rounds, but then unfortunately he might have been the 8th or the 9th round. He got knocked down, and he never really recovered, and lost the last 4 rounds. And 2 of the judges had it 114, 113. So, you know, he had that fight won finally, but unfortunately, sometimes that one big punch, and then all of a sudden, you know, couldn't gather himself.
Yeah, Kevin, he was certainly the first 3 or 4 rounds. He was outstanding, excellent. Then he just slowly fell away, and then, as you just said, that's what happened to him. But he was just about good enough to beat that Mexican too. Just a few little things he came up short.
Did you like the name of the guy he was fighting?
What was his name?
Josh Franco.
Who?
Josh Franco.
Was it?
Yeah, I thought, gee, he's come a long way from Port Adelaide's midfield.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Franco. Yeah, from Port Adelaide player, wasn't he?
Pardon? Yeah.
How many games did he play for Port? He played quite a few.
Oh, yeah, he's a good player, Josh Franco.
Yeah, he was runner-up in the Brownlow medal.
Yeah, was he?
Yeah, runner-up in the Brownlow.
Wow.
Which is, of course, the best position to finish, Kevin.
Well, I'm just saying that he was a pretty fair player. I mean, he just, you know, he had a couple of, you know, great seasons. He's an assistant coach at the moment, isn't he? Is he with? Was he with the Swans there for a while, Josh Franco? Is he still there? Or he was somewhere anyway as one of the assistant coaches. So many of them, but he certainly was an assistant coach somewhere. Probably still is.
Speaking, and I know both of you love your boxing. Just waiting for the game to start. I've watched they've had a couple of great Ali fights. Well, really interesting Ali fights on TV this afternoon. And then there's an amazing fight where he fought, the guy who was known as the Bonneville Bleeder or something.
His name was, started with a W, Wepner.
Yeah, Chuck Wepner.
Yeah, it goes back a while.
That guy, he knocked Ali down, and he'd never been knocked out in a fight in his life. He'd lost plenty, but he'd never been knocked down. And at 2 minutes and 46 seconds in the 15th round, Ali finally got him. He's a beauty, Ali.
He was on last Saturday as well, or last week as well.
They've been great. They're great to watch.
Yeah.
And that fight was called by a great mate of yours, Kevin, Colonel Bob Sheridan.
Yes, the Colonel. The first, I think the first one that Colonel actually called world title fight was the Rumble in the Jungle.
Yep. Zaire.
Yeah.
And since then, of course, I think he's called just about more world title fights than any other broadcaster in history. So Mumford's got the ball in this second quarter. So it's 14 points to 9. Collingwood lead by 5 points. And I reckon one thing he does, he gives the Giants a bit of presence around the ball, Mumford.
Oh, they love him.
He's made a difference tonight, I think, already in this game. Lockie Whitfield just got a free kick. He had 10 possessions in the first quarter, Lockie Whitfield. He's been All-Australian. He's an outstanding player. It's just that he had his appendix last year and he's had some other injuries this year. He's had a couple of injuries, but he was a former number 1 draft pick. But he is a magnificent player, Lockie Whitfield. Why
do you rate him like that for, Kev? The area of all areas?
He can play wing. He can play forward. He plays across the half-back line. There's not much of him. He's as brave as they come. He can take a good mark. He uses it well. He's just a smart player. and he's a consistent player. You know, he plays well week in, week out when he's fit. Bit of bravado there with Maynard and also with Davis. I think they made a mistake last week going after Bontempelli. You know, all that bravado stuff, didn't have their minds on the game. It always puts a smile on my face. You know, if you want to go around pushing and shoving people, you better win it on the scoreboard. Otherwise, you look at Dill.
Yeah,
It's not worth two, Bob.
Especially when they're attacking the second time around, it's never going to work. Should have targeted maybe some other player, if that's what they do or like to do.
I was watching last night. Finally, you might have been watching too. You know, the Bulldogs game, and I've been thinking for a little while that, you know, Bontempelli and Cripps and the likes of Fife, they're terrific in the midfield because there's so many players around the ball. But I just wonder if their sides would be better in terms of winning games and more dangerous if those three players actually played on the forward line. And we saw Bontempelli take a couple of terrific marks, brave marks, and, you know, he went back and he kicked a couple of goals. And I just wonder, you know, if you've got the talent of Bontempelli playing centre half forward with maybe an odd run on the ball, and you've got Cripps and Fife playing up forward, would those sides be better? Would they win more games than when those players are in the midfield?
Well, that match was almost won, you know, on the back of that magnificent, courageous mark by Bontempelli. Yeah, you talk about putting your best player in the forward line. Now, don't tell me Tom Papley wouldn't be a good on-baller, but he's just a brilliant forward.
See, I would. My thinking would be, I'm certain that Wayne Carey would have been a terrific midfielder. I reckon Gary Ablett would have been a terrific midfielder, and I reckon Nick Revolt would have been a terrific midfielder. You know, galloping around the field. And Matthew Richardson of Richmond showed that he could, you know, when he went to the wing, be a terrific, say, midfielder. But to my mind, they were more valuable to the side by playing up forward. And I just wonder, in this game with so many players around the ball, that we've lost the likes of Bontempelli and Cripps and Fife playing forward, and therefore the game is missing out on maybe three terrific forwards.
Well, you know, Kevin, the games are going to be decided by teams 9-4. Then you're spot on, because all of those players can kick 2 or 3 a week. And that really has to be translated into 6 or 7 back in the day.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
I think there's one team that's still got a chance to really use their forwards, and that's definitely Rewalt and Lynch, because they can really stand out if Richmond's playing the right sort of game, getting the ball down there quickly to them, and they're one on one. They can beat their opponent generally most times. And I really like that about Richmond if they're going to go anywhere this year again.
Well, just being a key forward, Finlayson's just kicked a goal for the Giants, so they lead 15 points to 14.
That was a very soft free kick, Kevin.
He got thrown to the ground, didn't he? And the umpire gave him the free kick. But which, you know, again, that's a bravado thing. You know, you don't need to probably do it. But it's interesting. See, he just throws him to the ground, roughhead. So the umpire comes in, Razor Ray, and gives him a free kick. It's a good kick too, Finlayson. But he started down back in his career, and then one day, one of their players got injured. It might have been Himmelberg or it might have been Cameron, and they had to throw someone forward, and they threw Finlayson forward. And ever since then, he's played as a forward, and on occasions he can be very dangerous.
Yep.
Oh, every week he pops up with 2 or 3 goals.
An arm wrestle, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's Tom Green who's got the free kick.
He's a fair size, isn't he, for a first-year player?
Big kid.
He's only a baby too, isn't he?
His father, Richard Green.
That's the youngest in the team, but the oldest in the team.
He came He came through the academy, of course, the Giants academy. His father, Richard, has been a helicopter pilot, a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and he's been in the Army or the Air Force all these years, and that's why he's up there in Canberra. That's bad luck for Mummy. He missed that goal from in front.
I'll tell you, boys, who has taken a couple of marks already this quarter and is having a really good season down back for the Giants is Haynes.
Oh,
he's turned into a really good player, has he not?
Well, he was in the squad. He was in the All-Australian top 40 last year.
They're on here, Collingwood, if they can get it.
Yeah, that's on the road. Oh, that took that a bit easy.
Don't wait for the ball. He waited for it then.
Yep.
Should have hands out front, Rene.
Yeah, he waited. Then he stopped and waited for it. Someone was going to breathe down his neck every time.
Now, I mean, Chris just took a mark there. He just pushed his opponent fair and square in the back.
Yeah.
That should have been a free.
God, that's a disgraceful decision there, not paying that free kick.
That's a worse free than the one Finlayson got down the other end, surely.
Yeah, well, he pushed him off the ball, didn't he? Off the flight of the ball.
I mean, the one Finlayson got, that's just a judgment call. Technically, it is there, but that one's just ignoring what's straight in front of you.
And one of the things I always like in football, and as a kid growing up, always protect the player going for the ball, give him the greatest opportunity. The player playing in front going for the mark, always give him the greatest opportunity. There's not much point playing in front if someone can stand behind you and just push you in the back and take the mark.
Yep. Spot on.
So
Collingwood's been wide open on that far side, haven't they, the last couple of efforts?
Yeah. Yep. Someone's not doing their job.
No.
There's a couple of shots, but they're looking more dangerous, Collingwood.
Yeah, there's a couple of opportunities gone missing there, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of whistles.
There's another strange one.
What do you think of the latest haircuts on footballers these days, Kev? They've all got this sort of behind the ears sort of shaved sort of look, and then they've got half a mullet and something else. And I only comment on that because being a ladies' hairdresser, I know, and a men's hairdresser, cut men's hair as well. I just find the latest sort of look on football is quite sort of strange.
Hair's not a strong point of mine, Rene. I'm not strong on hair.
Well, that's why I asked you to comment, Kev.
Look, it doesn't matter. I don't care what sort of haircut players have. They can have long hair, they can have short hair, they can have mohawks. As long as they can play, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their haircut looks like.
No, and I suppose it doesn't matter if they've got 300 tattoos. 300 tattoos on them too.
And in fact, if you would have seen this. A lot of old photographs, going back into the 20s and that, they nearly had a mohawk. I suppose haircuts were expensive to have, so when you had a haircut, you had a bloody good one. And you see a couple of old photographs I can still remember of looking at Lita Collier and a couple of those Collingwood guys, and they'd have the whole side of their head virtually all shaved.
Yeah, and of course there was the great centre part of Bruce Andrew.
Yeah, that was a standout, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember watching him on World of Sport, Bruce Andrew, doing the longest kick contest. And you'd always see in the close-up a magnificent centre part. That's he snuck one in here, Toby Green.
That's bad. That's bad. But even with the women's WFL, the women's competition, more and more women we're seeing each year with more tattoos on them, haven't we? It doesn't appeal to me.
Well, when I first started playing football, there was very few players that had tattoos. I can remember Kevin Murray had tattoos, and I think when he won the Brownlow medal, they used to do a lap of honour at the MCG on grand final day and be presented with their medal. And Kevin Murray, I think, might have been his mum or his father, didn't want to see the tattoo, so he had long sleeve jumper on when he received the Brownlow medal. The year he won it in 1969. When he won it in 1969, Robbie McGee came to Richmond from the Bulldogs. He had quite a number of tats at that particular point of time, but it was pretty much a rarity. You didn't see very many players with tattoos, but I think what happens is in this modern day in society that you see all these overseas sports and, pop stars and, tattoos and, the basketball players and football players in America. And we tend to follow a little bit, and it's become the norm, hasn't it? I mean, players start their careers at 18 years of age, and within 3 years, they got sleeves. Just the way it is.
Well, Kevin, it's what is the norm now? Because
Correct.
God bless Dean Laidley, and we want to take care of people like Dean. But bet you back in your day at Richmond, you never frocked up, did you?
I didn't know.
You weren't aware of anyone that frocked up? Because there was a bit of pressure.
I reckon Kevin might have played with somebody who frocked up.
Well,
not to my knowledge.
Well, no, we had done a full circle.
No,
and I had to, we talk about.
He maybe won an award that you never did, Kevin.
Well, we talk about Hertia Lumumba, and of course, me being a ladies' hairdresser. Well, what you think I got called? Hello, Renee, good to see you. I did get called a few names leaning towards being on the other side of the fence with the boys, and lucky over a long period of time, the girls saved my life and didn't allow me to go to the other side of the fence. Because my hairdressing salon was kinky hair, and everyone called me kinky. So, and being a ladies' hairdresser, the only one in football, well,
What nationality is kink?
My mother is Latvian and my father's Estonian.
Okay.
And then you're Lithuania, so it's the Baltic countries in opposite the
No
Black
wonder
Sea.
you're handy with the scissors.
Well, had a few complaints, not too many. I
want to tell you a story, Renee, that you will completely be bewildered by this, and you will, of course, not remember it. But when you're a famous footballer and you get spotted, the person who spots you never forgets it. And I go to South Australia quite a bit because of very close friend of mine. I always race greyhounds. Not at the moment, but we love going to Harndorf, the family and I, because we stayed in Gawler River. And I took the family to Harndorf one day, and on the way back, the kids were nagging me when they were very little to stop at Onkaparinga, which is Oakbank, where they have the jumps races.
Yeah, been there, love it. Been to the jumps a few times.
There's a chocolate factory there at Oakbank or Onkaparinga, up on the hill.
I must have missed that. It's unbelievable that I missed that.
You didn't miss it because I went in there and you were there at that chocolate factory.
I'm telling lies, Mark. I'm sorry. So you were in there and I was in there too.
Yeah, it wasn't really a chocolate factory, it was just a place to buy chocolates.
I think I had the 2 kilo bag and I looked across and you had the 1 kilo bag.
Well, I was going to say something. I was going to say, "G'day, Taco Donahue," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said to one of my kids, I said, that guy played league football. Now, I don't want to be rude, but my kid said, not last week he didn't.
How many years after was that?
I got all nervous because I thought you might have heard.
How many years after was that when I retired? Was it?
It was a few years. Hey, it was a few years afterwards, and let me tell you, I've got to say, you're probably in better nick now, so more power to you than you were then.
Yeah. Well, I'm 63, mate, and I've been out of it 34 years.
But from your biggest weight, you've lost a bit of weight. You look bloody healthy for a 63-year-old.
Thanks for the close-up.
Was there time you did put on weight post-footy?
Sorry, Mark?
Did you put on some weight post-football? Because you look much healthier now.
Oh, yeah, a couple of times off and on. It depends my mindset. But I'm back in the gym now and absolutely enjoying it again. And, I need to drop a few Ks, and I will do that over the sort of 6-month period. I won't bust my pupper because you can't afford to at 63. And because I enjoy it, and it's a discipline thing where I get up and push myself every morning to do it, I really do enjoy it, and the results will come, but I'm not there to break any records in regards of immediate results. Just a little bit at a time, and I'll be very comfortable.
I reckon there's probably some Latvian and Estonian home specialties that are hard to... that Eastern European food's lovely.
Well, it is very much so, and it was only a few years ago where I applied with a friend of mine to go on My Kitchen Rules, and we got accepted. But we didn't take it up because she had a couple of issues with daughters, and my mother's birthday was coming up. So I thought, look, it's not a great time to do this because you, as you know, get locked away for a few months in Sydney, and you can't do too much other than try and cook food and be nice on TV. So we didn't take it up. That's always been my love of food and cooking all my life, Mark.
That's my go as well. I just love it.
Yeah.
What a goal!
Toby Green, if you don't mind.
Not bad.
It was a great grab, and the snap was even better.
Yeah, I mean,
he's kicked it out of the pack.
It wasn't a mark, but everybody else stopped.
But just with my roots, just finishing up, Mark, it goes back, as you said, the European thing and the European food and what you get brought up on, and you have a love for it. So.
It's one of my great mysteries, Serge. You're a TV expert, and you know everything about television shows and successive shows. One of my great mysteries is how the hell do cooking shows actually rate? My Kitchen Rules. I couldn't think of anything more boring than watching someone, grab a stainless steel bowl, whack an egg in it, put 5 grams of butter, a pinch of salt, stir it, whack it in the oven, put it in 135 degrees centigrade, take it out. All this sort of stuff. It is the most boringest show I've ever seen on TV of cooking shows, and yet for some reason, people tune in and watch them.
They do, Kevin. There's no doubt about that. But look, I think one of the reasons for the success of your TV cooking shows, My Kitchen Rules and MasterChef and what have you, is it's something. Cooking is something that just about every viewer can relate to and has done at some point in their life. And most people would like to be good at it and be better at it than they possibly are. Whereas in so many other reality type of TV shows, very few of us are going to ever find, apart from probably Finey in his heyday, find yourself on a deserted island with 24 bikini-clad women, But to cook is not an unusual thing. And people like to see and they can pick it up. I mean, we watch the footy and none of us, most people go, well, these guys are the elite. I could never do what they do at that level. But most people will go, you know what? I could probably cook my steak a little bit better than I do now by watching these guys. I reckon it's people just relate to it. That's why they've succeeded over the years.
But see, Kevin, you can't relate to it. Tell me what you did after the 1980 Grand Final, on the Monday after the 1980 Grand Final, when all the boys got together to have a drink. What did you do?
I think they went down to Wales pub, I think.
No, I said, what did you do?
I went down there and had a counter lunch, whatever, with the boys. And
did you? Okay. I heard on the mail, the good mail was that you stayed home.
No, I went to work. I went to work.
Okay.
I went to work on the Monday, but at lunchtime, I worked for Telstra in those days, PMG, and at lunchtime, I knocked off for a couple of hours and went down to the hotel where everyone was celebrating, and then went back to work.
So you went to work first. You were just a marvel. You just checked in, clocked in, and said, "I'm going now. It's my time." Fantastic, Kev.
Well,
I think you walked out the door and your wife said, "Get going, because you are a bloody ball. Get out of the joint."
Do you like cooking shows, Finey?
You know what? I really get frustrated by these Australian ones they're more. The sort of reality.
What's happening with the footy? We've got another goal there, Collingwood.
4-4 apiece. They're dragged out over. I think anything that rates in Australia gets 4 or 5 months on TV, which is ridiculous. I love a good cooking show. I like all the Rick Stein shows. I'm a fan of a few of the international chefs. I love ones that take you to different parts of the world because I love cooking. And I've got to say, I'm a pretty dab hand. There's not many dishes that I can't recreate, except obviously these fancy, top-line fancy, crazy ones. But I love making paella, the Spanish rice dish. I've been making some cabbage rolls lately, some Polish cabbage rolls. I don't know, just when you
Mark, can I ask you, what's your take on Gordon Ramsay?
I've watched his cooking shows when he's actually just cooking, when he's not swearing, when he's not playing up.
I'm not interested in his cooking. I'm interested in him.
I'm saying when he's cooking, he's actually he's a very good TV chef, but he's caught up obviously in the sort of being the I used to do a show called Finey's Final Siren after the footy, and I think he wants to be the Finey's Final Siren of cooking. I used to say. I just wish I was allowed to swear as much as he does. That would have been good radio.
Yeah, Finey. He created a character, is what he's done, and he's milked that. Gordon Ramsay. He's created that character, and he's milked it as far as it will go, and it's made him millions, tens of millions of dollars, and he ain't going to be backing off now and suddenly becoming the nice guy.
Oh, well, he is actually. He is actually, because his latest series, he goes to all these far-flung places in the world and cooks with the locals. There's none of the swearing. In fact, he's very respectful, and he basically hunkers down with sort of locals in very far away settings, and it's good TV.
Okay.
I don't condone his swearing at all, because I think it's a bit crude and rude more often than not. But you got to give it to him, because he does tell the truth, and a lot of us don't want to hear that truth. But let me tell you, 5 minutes later, you walk away and you think about it, and you say, "Yeah, geez, he was right."
Oh, Renee, who cares if you can't cook an egg or something like that, or your custard's been milked or too hot.
Just because your beautiful wife, Kevin, has been there 24/7 for you.
No one cares about it. One of the messages coming through saying that obviously I don't do any cooking. I don't cook. I can live on jam sandwiches and Vegemite sandwiches. So that I can live on that. I can live on that, or go down the fish and chip shop. But who cares if you pull it out and the roast potatoes are not browned enough or something like that, or the peas are cold? No one cares.
Me. Hey, Kevin, what's the fanciest thing you've ever eaten?
I don't eat any fancy food whatsoever. Well, I'm not very adventurous when it comes to food. It's got to be very, very basic. What do we describe as fancy, Kevin? Fancy is anything other than potatoes, pumpkin, peas, beans, cauliflower, chops, bit of steak, red sausage.
Have you ever Have you ever had a vindaloo, a curry?
No, I don't like anything hot.
And have you ever had a Chateaubriand, Kevin?
No.
You must try one day. It's beautiful.
You know, it's funny.
You like
Actually.
to know what it's all about, don't you?
Even Denise says to me, you know, we've been married for just on 50 years. And, you know, at night she turns around and she says, you know what? I'm sick and tired of cooking. And I think to myself, so would I be if I was cooking all that sort of rubbish for all these years. Cooking is the most boringest thing on the planet. The only thing I'm good at is that I'm good at cleaning up. Denise does all the cooking, don't you, sweetie? He does all the cooking.
Yeah.
And I do all the cleaning up.
Well, it's a square off. It's very fair, Kevin.
It's
Must
still
be
a
very
50
satisfying.
year square off.
Must be very satisfying for Denise cooking for you. Very rewarding.
No, I'm the worst person to cook for. But that's what I'm saying. Those cooking shows, I know I'm one out here, but I just can't understand how people can possibly sit there and watch people put a bit of olive oil in a stainless steel bowl and mix it up with a bit of butter, and people get excited about it.
It's funny, you know.
Half time,
It's funny,
28 points each.
My wife absolutely loves cooking shows. She watches me watching the football, and she says, "What on earth do you see in that?" So there you go.
Just digressing a little bit again, Kevin. Football trips over the years. What was your best football trip? Because you go back to the late 60s, we'll call it the late 60s.
I'm pretty boring there, Renee, because I hardly went on a football trip.
You never went to Wangaratta or Albury with Dogger or something like that?
No, I think the most memorable football trip I ever went on, most of the time, you know, when I was married, I never went on football trips. Even when I was engaged, you know, I just never went on football trips because I had to keep working. We had jobs, Renee. We weren't running around with a pair of scissors and a comb in our hand, you know.
But Richmond, I'm sure Richmond did have football trips that you may have gone on one or two, three.
Well, in all the years I was there, maybe I went on one or two of them. I remember the first trip I ever went on was in 1966. So that was my second year. And Richmond decided that they would put us on the Marconi, the boat, the Marconi, and that sailed to Sydney. And then from Sydney, it went to Brisbane, and then we went to the Gold Coast for a week or so.
Okay, well, who was the worst behaved footballer you went on that trip with, and who was the best behaved footballer besides yourself?
I was the best behaved, but we didn't have anyone at Richmond misbehave. No one at Richmond.
No bad boys at all.
That was the other thing we went on. It took us about 4 days. I don't know, by the boat to sort of get to Brisbane or get to Sydney. It's one of the most boringest times in my life, being on a boat. How anyone can actually hop on a boat and sail for 3 or 4 days or a week or go on a cruise. How boring must that be?
You don't want to go to the Caribbean on a boat?
That's the last thing on my mind. I wouldn't go if you gave it to me for nothing. You like sailing? You like going boat, Serge?
Yeah, I love boats. Actually, Kevin, I love some of the best times I've ever had is hiring a yacht up in the Whitsundays for a couple.
Really?
You talk about your 50-year marriage. I had my honeymoon was on a yacht at the Whitsundays. It was magnificent. You know,
really
get up at the crack of dawn. The only danger is though when you rent a yacht up in the Whitsundays, you wake up early, you get up early, you set the sails, you take off, and then you've been gone for not too long, and you think it's about time for a cold beer. And you pull one out of the esky, and then you look at your watch, and it's 10 to 8. And you maybe put that off for a couple of hours. But no, I love boats, Kev. Now, I've got to ask you.
Too boring.
Half time, all square, 4-4 apiece. Where do we see it going from here? Finally,
I don't think anyone can.
You know, it reminds me of a game that was considered for a while one of the worst games ever, the infamous St Kilda game versus, was it the Swans at the Telstra Dome at the time? Grant Thomas was captain, and they both ended up on 8-8-56. Well, we're halfway there. We've got 4-4-28.
Yeah.
Except this one, under the new circumstances, is considered quite exciting and not low scoring. This game, actually, to be honest, this game is swinging like the proverbial pendulum. At the moment, you could not, on what you've seen, you could not separate them. They've both got dangerous forwards, Toby Green, obviously, and Stevenson up the other end. They've both got pretty powerful midfields, and to be honest, they've got good defences. That means that a lot of entries are being repelled. So it's start all over again. If we thought 16-minute quarters were short, well, now we've virtually got 2 16-minute halves because it's as though the first half didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's your classic, just two good teams going head-to-head is what it appears to be at the moment.
Well, you've got two teams that play as same as everyone else plays. Very similar. Get a lot of players around the ball, get a lot of density, play a lot of keepings off, a lot of handball, a lot of short kicks, trying to go forward. If you get it forward, get numbers back there, clog it up, get a lot of players around the ball. And, I mean, no one could pick who's going to win this game. And the other thing is the scoring is so low, Serge, that lots of times a lot of people, they talk about the game being exciting because it's a bit like basketball in many ways. A lot of basketball games get down to the last minute and there's a couple of points the difference. And, it has an exciting finish. Well, football's getting that way because the scoring is so low that you can be 3 or 4 goals down with 6 or 7 minutes to go. And you might have a chance of actually winning the game because, you're 4 goals and they're 7.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
exactly right.
Here's 2 of the best teams in the competition. At different stages, they've probably both been favourites to maybe even win a premiership this year. I think the Giants were favourites before the start of the year. Collingwood's probably favourites now to win the flag. And I've said to you before, the salary cap's $14 million. The football department spending of coaches and recruiters is probably about nearly $10 million. So the investment is $24 million to get that side out onto the field to win your game. So there's about $48 million it's costing at the moment, and we've got 4 goals each.
It's not value for money, is it? Really?
Well, not value for the money, but that the abnormal has become the normal now. And as it goes on year after year after year, where scoring keeps coming down, and last year I think was the lowest scoring since 1965. So what you get is you get an arm wrestle, a lot of players around the ball, not scoring. Scoring's not the priority. First of all, it's the defence's number 1 priority. Second priority is to get numbers around the ball, density around the ball. The third priority is to play keepings off. And then if things go our way, we may open up and get a goal. So scoring is about the 4th priority. So that's what we're used to. That's what we've got now. And people watch it and they now accept it. But, from those who might have had different memories of the game, having the best players in the competition, the creme de la creme, best players in the world, and what we get is, scoreless quarters, 2 goals to half time, 4 goals each at half time, and it's accepted these days. So who's going to win this game?
I don't know.
No one knows who's going to win this game. No one.
Kevin, I don't know where you got this thing. It's accepted. Who's accepting it?
Well,
You're saying the general public's accepting it at this stage.
I think they have. You see, it's accepted because, Renee, people grow up with it. So if you grow up with it, that's what you see and that's what you accept. It's like the modern day player. You say to the modern day player, there was a time when players never ran off the ground when they kicked the goal. It was time when they didn't have interchange. They would find that hard to believe because they've been brought up on interchange, on and off the ground, that they can't play a full game, that when you get tired, you take your breath off the ground, you don't take your breath on the ground. That becomes the normal. That's what becomes accepted in the game. So people watch it. So those watching the game and those playing the game, they believe that is how the game is played.
Yeah,
that's why it's accepted.
I've still got a problem with it.
No, but you come from But you see, you've come from a different era. See, you've come.
Yeah,
you've
I
come
understand that. Yeah, you're right, Kev, because the last 10, 15 years it has changed dramatically, hasn't it? Football in how it's played.
Yeah.
Well, not how it's played, but the way the game is set up to be played.
Well, you
and-
know, in terms of interchange, see, interchange came in 1977, and interchange when it came in was so you could have an injured player come off the ground and you could put someone on, so you wouldn't have an injured player out on the ground. So it was all to do with injuries. As the years have gone on, it's no longer for injuries; it's a tactic. It becomes a tactic. Got interchange has got nothing to do with injured players anymore. You know, in 1980, the 1980 grand final. Interchange came in 1977. So what, 77, 78, 79. So 4 years into interchange in 1980. Richmond made its first interchange in the grand final at the 13-minute mark of the last quarter when they brought on our captain, Bruce Monteith. And our second interchange for the game was Darryl Freem came on at the 26-minute mark of the final quarter. They were the two interchange. Yet
but
you could
didn't have to make any changes whatsoever, Kevin.
So what I'm saying is,
I was out there. I know all about it.
no, but the point I'm making is that it was used for injured players or right at the end of the game to put someone on the ground. It wasn't used as a tactic of. I mean, Bruce Monteith and Freem could have come on 25 times in the game if the coaches had wanted them to, but it was used.
The other week you said something about the game will be better in regards to the way you look and spoken about interchange, and it should be changed in a way. You said.
Well, I don't think that we should be having the number of interchanges that we've got. Well, interchanges, I'd do away with the interchanges and just have people sitting on the bench. But that's, to be realistic, that's never going to happen. But it's got to be wound right back, interchange. So you just don't have a massive, fresh players coming on and off the ground all the time.
The number of interchanges you're saying, Kevin, on and off the ground.
Yes, that's the problem. I don't see.
What is the average? 90 or 80 or something? Isn't the average interchanges for a team?
It's 90 now, but of course it can be a few more than that. It can be a few more because that doesn't count the 4 interchanges at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time. And if you want to in the last quarter, if you've got injured players, you can have another 4. So in total, you can have as many as 106. It's far too many at 90. Let's get it down to about 20, and let's just see what effect it has on the game
20.
in terms of. Let's get it down to 20.
Turnaround 90 to 20 or 80 to 20.
Yeah,
that's a massive turnaround.
Kevin, is dropping it back to 20, is that as unrealistic as dropping it completely, do you think?
Well, you see, I was interested in Renee's response then saying, what, from 90 to 20? You can't do that. I can't believe it. It sounds like it's so radical. For 90 years, they operated with one person on the bench, which came in, I think, 1947. And then a few years after that, they had 2 on the bench. So for 90 years of football, it wasn't radical to get down to just 2 interchanges for the total of the game. So I'm saying we might get it down to 20, and let's see what that makes to the game in terms of spreading out game out, more contests within contests all over the ground, players spreading their effort all over the ground, bringing back some iconic features of the game, which may even be that you may see someone like a Dunstall, or you may see a Lockett or a John Coleman, or someone like that who just may kick 100 goals in the season, which was a fantastic part of the game of Australian rules football. We've just about got rid of the 100-goal kicker. It's a bit like cricket bringing in rules so that you can't score a century. Well, we've just about done that with football, where you can't kick 100 goals in a season. Not at the moment, not the way.
It's so hard to believe that Peter Hudson kicked 150, and you look at our game now, and you just shake your head and say it's just impossible.
Peter Hudson, Jesaulenko, Wade, Dunstall, Lockett, they're the iconic players.
So, do you believe, Kevin, that the Rules Committee will look at that going forward?
Well, they're looking at it. I mean, that's why they brought in the changes of 6x6x6, and that's why they brought in the changes to the ruck rule and the kick-in rule and protected zone rule, because they know that football has a problem. They just don't know how to fix it. They certainly don't want to touch interchange at the moment. For what reason, I don't know. Maybe the coaches put too much pressure on them. And then people come up with all sorts of ideas, as you know. Make the goal square bigger, can't mark it when it's kicked backwards, 9 points for a goal, all those sorts of things. I mean, people know that football's got a problem. It's just how do they fix it? I'm talking as a spectacle, as a theatre goer watching the game. I believe it should be better.
How do we make it better? That's the thing.
Well, my theory is that by spreading the effort out all over the ground and players having to play a full game. I mean, I don't like seeing a player like last night. I was watching the Sydney Swans game, and Papley finished up kicking 4 goals for the Sydney Swans, but every time he kicked the goal, he sprinted off the ground. I don't want to. I personally, as a theatre goer, I don't want to see that. I want to see when the ball comes down again in the next two minutes or 30 seconds. That I want to see if Papley's going to pounce on the ball and kick another goal.
Yeah, that reminds of the old days, how it used to be. And you love that player to follow up with another goal or another goal. And he went on to being one of your best players all the time. So and now, as you said, they pull you off the heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well,
players get on a roll. All of a sudden they're up and about. Their opponent, of course, is very, very edgy. You're running on top of the ground. You've got the adrenaline flowing. You've kicked a goal. You've kicked another goal. You feel fantastic. You don't feel tired. It's like when you win a grand final. When the final siren sounds, no one feels tired on the winning side. Those on the losing side feel exhausted.
Yes, I know what that's like, Kevin. Too many times.
But this game tonight has become an arm wrestle, and it's going to be pretty tough to see who's going to win it in the second half. I'll see if I can get some stats at half time in terms of the players. Whitfield's had it 15 times. Zach Williams down back's had it 13. Maynard's had it 12. Jeremy Howe's had it 15 times. Toby Green has kicked a couple of goals and had it 10 times. That's terrific work for a small forward. Darcy Moore's had it 10. Josh Kelly's had it 9 times. Pendlebury only had it 8 times in the first half, which is well down on his average.
He's been quiet for.
So he's been quiet. Grundy's had 7 possessions. He hasn't had the around the ground impact that he's had in other games. We'll see what in terms of Mumford. Mumford has had six possessions. So Mumford in a way is nullifying the. Grundy's the All-Australian ruckman over the last 2 years, and he's an outstanding player. I think Mumford coming to the side has made a hell of a difference to the Giants. I said before the game that Sam Jacobs, I thought, was going to be a good player for him and a good pickup because he's tall, about 6'7", get his hands on the ball. But he hasn't had the urgency in the last couple of weeks, and they've looked very fragile and frail around the ball. And then today you get Mumford in, and as you saw, he wins the opening tap. He lays strong tackles, puts his big body on the line. He gives a lot of confidence to those midfield players and around the ground. He's a protector. And I think in this game, he's important, because he's got a presence about him.
I'm just looking at Steel side bottom stats: 3 disposals, no clearances, 4 tackles. Very poor.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've got side bottom not getting the ball, and you've got and also Pendlebury not getting the ball, I mean, two of their greatest players, that's a big win for the Giants.
And you look at Lockie Whitfield, who's been very damaging running through the centre. I think you said, Kevin, he's had 15 or so touches.
Yep.
But most of them he's hit a target as well. And you compare that, as you say, Renee, to side bottom, 3 touches to half time. is just
We have
not
to look
good enough.
The Goey's only had it 5 times. So a lot of their star players are just not getting their hands on the ball.
Yeah, but De Goey's one of those blokes who can get 8 touches and kick 4 goals, and he'll have done his job. He hasn't done it so far, but I mean, that's Haynes again.
I've just got a message to say that the intercept marks at half time by Collingwood is 12 already, which is good or bad. And guess what? The average this season is 22 intercept marks for Collingwood.
Yeah.
So they've still got a fair bit of work to do. I'm very bit disappointed with Mason Cox tonight. He hasn't. I don't think he's got hardly a touch on the ball.
I'll look him up for you.
Yeah, have a look, Kev. What's his stats telling you?
Renee, I've noticed a couple of times when he's gone up in the ruck, he and I guess this is his lack of experience or what have you of playing AFL football, but he tends to go up with 2 hands and knock it down that way. There's no back and forth like you'll see Grundy or Max Gawn do. I think he struggles when they put him in the ruck. His only real, I think his best position, Mason Cox, is to put him at centre half forward or full forward, take a couple of big grabs there. You know?
Deep forward pocket, and talk to him when he's down there and telling him when to run and when not to run, and that's when he.
As a tap ruckman, he's not the answer, and Mumford can push him to the side.
Yeah, push him off balance very easy. He's not a very well balanced sort of big 6'8", 6'9" player.
Yeah, Cox has had 3 positions in the first half, 2 and a handball. So the Giants have done well in down really damaging players in De Goey, Pendlebury, and Sidebot. Both speak to it is can they continue.
Yeah.
So it's 28 points each. We've got 13 and a half minutes to go in this third quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with Sidebottom again. I'm not a real Sidebottom fan because when it's going to be in there tight and tough and scrounge and fight and bite, I find he's a bit of an outside player too often. And yes, he can get the ball in terms of deliver it and use it very, very well. He's got a nice free kick then. But I just don't think his stats really do him any justice because they're not high enough when it really counts in the big games.
Well, I think Sidebottom's been a fantastic player. I think he's been a big game player, and he's been so important to Collingwood's success. In the midfield, he's such a hard runner. I've got a different opinion of Sidebottom than yourself there, Renee. I think he's marvellous.
But I mean, Kevin, I'm a big believer. I love players who play on the ball or have got the ability to get the ball enough, be it around the centre or forward of centre. I want to see goals. I want to see the ball being used. I just get a bit frustrated when they talk about, like you are with Sidebottom, and he just doesn't kick goals or use the ball well enough at times, especially when the pressure's on him.
That's one of the things that the modern game has lost. And we talked before about where the 100-goal kicker has disappeared, but the midfield goal kicker has disappeared out of the game as well. And that's because it's a bit like basketball where you have the point guard, the playmaker. There's so many handballs and so many kicks around the ground trying to set up. But you'll see the best midfielders in the game that average close to, when they have the full quarters, they average close to 30 possessions a game. And for the season, they'll kick 12 goals or 14 goals. So that's one part of the game that's disappeared as well, where the midfielder, should be kicking at least a goal a game. And if you had to be a star or one of the great midfielders, maybe close to 2 goals a game now. Toby Green's just kicked his 3rd goal, and that's what he's good at. He gets the ball on the forward line. He's a great competitor, and he converts. But that's great midfielders kick goals, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but that's what I want, Kevin. I want Dangerfield and I want Five to kick goals because they're great ball getters, great midfielders, 6'3", 4", whatever they are. And when they do kick a goal, it electrifies the game and lifts the team.
Fresh off the forward line if you got your midfield kicking goals. All I'm saying is I wouldn't be bagging Sidebottom for not kicking goals because he's not the only great midfielder who doesn't kick goals. I mean, finally, he'll tell you himself that, not too many of the great midfielders actually kick goals, playing in the midfield. They just don't kick goals. They're not goal kickers. It's not in their psyche. It's not in their psyche.
Well, Kevin, when you were playing, I mean, you were just about the preeminent rover of your whole sort of generation there. But you wouldn't have run out into the ground. You would have expected to kick a couple each week, wouldn't you? And you probably averaged that over your career. But you would, as a first rover and resting in the forward pocket, if you'd walked off the ground with a handful of, quite a few possessions, but no goals, you would have thought, yeah, probably wasn't my greatest day out there today.
Well, it was expected as a midfielder that you would kick goals.
Exactly, that's my point.
I'm playing in the midfield for the first 15 years of my career. The last 4 I played as a small forward. But I kicked 50 goals in a season. As an on-baller, or 45 goals in a season as an on-baller. You'd be trying to kick a couple of goals a game. That's sort of half expected that if you could do that, you were contributing to the side. But it was in the psyche of me playing as a midfielder and other midfielders at that time that part of your role was also to kick a couple of goals, or at least try and kick 1 goal a game. But I don't think it's not in the psyche of midfield players today. You take Adam Treloar, who's not playing here tonight, who is a fantastic midfielder. He's a gun. He's a real jet for Collingwood. But he doesn't kick a lot of goals. Maybe at the end of the season, he might kick 12 or 13 or 14 or something like that. But he's just the same as most other midfielders these days, and that is that it's not in their makeup to have that authority.
There's a reason, and I reckon there's a reason why. Because when Kevin wasn't roving, he'd be in the forward pocket resting, and all rovers were expected to kick goals when they were resting. Now, of course, you rest on the interchange bench, and there's no real psychology of on-ballers resting and kicking goals. Imagine Lee Matthews in the modern game, what a waste it would be not having him go up forward for part of the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we could spread our efforts out all over the field by players being on the ground and less interchange, that's another feature of the game that I think would come back into it. This looks like a goal coming up for the Giants. That's a good kick.
Tommy Green.
That was kicked by Tom Green, Michael Green's grandson. And they now lead by 12 points, which is a massive margin in this game.
I'm from the old school, Kev. I love players. And Dusty Martin has really been the catalyst for players who play on the ball and can kick goals. And doesn't it make a difference when he's on the ball kicking goals for Richmond? And don't they follow? And don't they want to be a part of getting the ball to someone or be a part of it themselves to kick goals? And it's just, last year was just magnificent to watch.
Why is it, when I first started playing, I was skinny arms and skinny legs at 18 years of age. Tom Green just kicked a goal there. He probably weighs about 90 kilos. How come they got so much bigger fight?
But Kevin, if you saw, they cut to the close-up of Tom Green there, and you look at his face, he looks about 12. Even though he's built magnificently, but he's still a very, very young man.
Just got a clearance there. He's a beauty. You'll find it's the varied diet I guess maybe you would have been better served eating a few different things rather than your very basic diet, Kevin.
Well, Lamingtons and a cup of tea, it's pretty hard to get past, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everyone's just Toby Green is he's an interesting player, Toby, wasn't he? When he first started with the Giants, he's kicked 3 goals tonight and he's been a star up forward. He's been All-Australian on a couple of occasions. But in his first year of AFL football, when Kevin Sheedy coached the Giants, I think he averaged something like 26 possessions a game in his first season as a Giants as an on-baller. But they had so many on-ballers, you know, with Treloar and Dylan Shield and Devon Smith and those players and Callum Ward, that they didn't have room for them all to play on ball. And then, you know, someone came up with a bright idea, let's play him as a small forward. And when he's fit and well and playing, he's the best in the game as a small forward. He kicks goals. That's why he's been All-Australian on a couple of occasions. So it's been a great transformation for Toby Green to go from a midfield player getting 26 possessions a game to being
Here we go. We might have busted the game open here.
Probably going to open it.
Go like this.
Gee, Steve Ward's getting a bit excited up there, Finey.
Yeah. I didn't know he was such a keen GWS man.
No, who'd have thought?
I'm not saying...
in the preliminary final, didn't they? They came out in the third quarter and blew them away in the third quarter.
Yeah, they almost blew it, but they did hang on for the win. I'm not saying he plays like this player, but Tom Green, when he picks up the ball and kicks it, it looks like he reminds me of John Blakey. He looks a bit like him. Have a look at him next time he picks it up and kicks the ball. Very different player, of course, but let's keep an eye on him.
So this will be interesting. This will be a good test now for Collingwood to see some of those players that we spoke about before who have really struggled to get into the game, whether or not they can dig deep and somehow produce something for Collingwood. But all of a sudden, starting to charge out of the centre. Hopper, strong too. They're fine. The thing about the Giants is they're not easy to follow, are they, as a side? I mean, their last couple of weeks, they've been tipping, haven't they? But when they play well and they back themselves in, they get more vigorous, they get more urgency in their game, and you think they're going to be very difficult to beat. But again, they may come out next week and play like pussycat.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, they were not brilliant last year. It was not maybe their best year even. But obviously they hit a bit of form during the finals. And they seem to be that sort of team that they can, at their best, be a very difficult team to play. Gee, that was a nice kick by Pendlebury. De Goey let him down then. But as De Goey does, he made amends. And that's a good goal by Myercheck.
Well, they needed that one.
Got out of jail there.
Yeah, but he's like that. He's got the ability to do that, doesn't he?
Yeah, good recovery from De Goey. Very good recovery when he should have marked the ball.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful kick by Pendlebury, wasn't it?
Yeah, well weighted, and I didn't think he jumped high enough. He thought it was going to come to him.
Yep.
And a good recovery, though, good goal. So, put something back in the game now.
Yeah, that's they needed that one. Look at those boots. He might play for Richmond next year.
So what's the score at the moment?
2 goals.
7-4-5 for 2 goals.
Yeah. And we have had some goals this quarter, 3 goals to 1.
Well, if we get another goal, Collingwood, it's going to make it very interesting.
An avalanche.
God, it looks funny without that crowd in there, doesn't it? When you
Yeah.
look at the ball being bounced in the middle and you look across the ground, you think, what's going on here?
Side bottom man.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
What's that? Too easy.
I think the game might be won or lost in the next 6.5 minutes of this quarter.
Maybe.
I mean, they are definitely pressing GWS. If Collingwood can resist, then they're back in the game.
Cox, that must have been his first touch, surely.
No, he's had a few. I'll tell you one thing. Renee, he has not been beaten in a ruck contest tonight.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah, look, I think he's of more use than Darcy Cameron. I really do.
Really?
Oh, I don't think Darcy Cameron's done much at all, did he, in those 2 games?
Oh, yeah, but he's only a baby. He's got a bit to do.
He ran into trouble then. Oof.
Bad handball.
That was not good play by Maynard. He had options and he ran into trouble and he's cost his side a goal.
Yeah.
He would be furious with Maynard there,
Buckley. Oh, wouldn't he? You can tell now. Look at Buckley. He's screaming.
You can see the cutaway to Buckley.
You know, Maynard is a reliable footballer, but he made a very bad choice then. He just should have handballed it off.
Yep.
He had Noble, and I don't know why he absorbed that tackle. Gee, that was
bad.
That, and the coach knows that is we are in absolute game decision period here, and that is the last thing that they wanted was that goal. Look at this on replay.
What's this? This is a lovely piece of work there.
So Maynard gets the ball. Oh no, that's already gone on a little bit. But yeah, he did the wrong thing then, Maynard.
They're looking dangerous, the Giants here. I mean, Collingwood had half a sniff before that goal. It's the old. Every time, you know, when a team works and works and works, finally kicks a goal, and then bang, just one comes straight back the other way. It's exactly what happened then.
Play on.
Pendlebury up and under.
You're not criticising Pendlebury, are you, Serge?
No, not at all. But
what's the go?
He hasn't had enough of it tonight. Pendlebury and Skybolt together.
I'll tell you what, De Boer, he claims a few scalps, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty handy. He's a consistent player.
I reckon he gets away with too much, De Boer.
Does he?
He wraps his arms around players all the time. That's no good for the game.
Yeah, he strikes me as being one of those really annoying players, De Boer. But that's not a criticism. I think he does his job absolutely beautifully.
He's well known, De Boer. That should be a free against my check.
Can't make the distance. Who's this? This is Brown, isn't it? Brown, 17?
Yeah, it's Brown.
No, he can't make the distance. Oh,
Cox should have marked that. He was the only bloke to have hands on it.
He was 7 inches, 8 inches above everyone.
He should have held that.
Flat hands, and they were flat as a tack, they were. Awful looking hands up in the air. I need one here, Collingwood.
And they got one, Phillips.
And that's it.
Thank goodness.
I haven't seen much of him tonight.
No, he's been quiet.
He's normally pretty prolific, isn't he?
He's been playing well so far this year.
Pendlebury's having a word about De Boer. I mean, yeah, well, that's put him back in the game.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting last quarter. I'm looking forward to that, as long as they don't kick another goal, GWS. I like to get one more if it's possible. Good goal, this. Good goal. Fair bit of traffic there, isn't there? Look at it.
You know what? I actually admire the GWS defenders there. You know why? A lot of defenders claim that they touch it when they don't. And we've got to go to this arc and whatever. You know,
Yeah.
at least they didn't, you know.
You're right, there was a lot of traffic. They could have easily claimed it. Hit
How
a
often
finger.
you see claims when they're clearly not, you know, so good on them. If no one touches it, don't claim it. It's just not cricket. Oh, that was a free to go. Here we go. Now maybe Collingwood.
Cox, Jesus.
I thought he did bloody well then, Cox. That's a goal.
Good goal.
He kicked it off the ground.
And
How
Mike
about this goal?
kicked it. That's where you want the ball coming down, front and centre.
Yeah. Cox
Fantastic
brought it to
goal.
ground and my check was in the perfect spot.
That's what you want. He's not going to be marking heaps of ball like that, but as long as he's competing and the ball's coming front and centre, you can play to that.
Yep. They all ran onto it front and centre. That was great. Yep,
Bloody
great goal.
good. He's good, Myercheck. Oh,
He's bigger than you think too, my check. You look at him next to Cox.
Here it is. Have a look. It's going to come. Here it comes.
that's what you want.
Oh, he read that beautifully.
Look at that off the ground. You're guilty.
Great goal.
Giddy up, Collingwood.
Jamie Elliott, he's another one who hasn't done a lot tonight. Am I right in saying that?
Hasn't had a sniff.
Right.
I'd like to see his stats. I can see his tats. I'd like to see his stats.
Oh, he is a star, is he not?
How good was that?
Well, I tell you, this will be an important goal. Just hit back so quickly. Going for goal number 4.
Yeah.
How big is he? I can't work out how big he
I'm
is.
going for goal number
Going
4.
off to Cameron.
That is ridiculous.
I missed it. Why did he do that?
He actually do that. Here's Toby Green. He's kicked
Where
3
forward?
goals. He's the hottest forward on the ground. He's taken a mark. No angle to speak of.
Why would Cameron even call
25
for
metres
it?
out.
You know what, KB? Why is Cameron running past for the handball anyhow?
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, well, he's 8 metres out. He should have just. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeepers.
That wouldn't have iced the game. That could have given them, 3-goal lead into three-quarter time, which would be very handy.
Moment.
Cox. No, still nothing.
Well, he's got a set shot. He can go back. He can take his time. He's got 30 seconds to kick the ball. Compose
Here we go.
himself.
Collingwood will kick a goal here.
Hold it. Hold
Kick
it.
again.
You're dark on there. You're dark on Cox there,
Calling for it,
Rene.
running by.
Rene,
Yeah,
but
and, look, whatever you get out of him is a bonus, Mark, honestly. But,
I'm saying, but for a big bloke, he did keep the ball going forward. He's the
That
one
is
that,
ridiculous.
you know.
oh, yeah, the ball was trapped. He trapped it. But,
That's
It's
just
an
been
experiment.
far too cute with Toby and Cameron. Cameron shouldn't have even been thinking about that.
Oh, he's missed
Should
it.
have said him go back and put it straight through the middle. A bit of a
And
let
you
off there with
missed
Myercheck
those.
hitting the post. Jeez.
Kevin, just reflecting on something we were talking about before, just before the quarter ends, we just got a comment from a viewer. Quick answer: will there ever be any more 100-goal-a-year goal kickers in the AFL? Do you think it'll ever happen again?
Not
It's hard to
unless
imagine.
they get in. Not unless they get interchange down.
Right.
It would take a miracle season by something extraordinary for someone to kick 100 goals the way the game is played now.
Correct.
Why is that not a free kick against Myercheck?
And as I said before, I find it one of the disappointing parts of the game because, as a kid growing up, reading about football and watching football, the most iconic players were, Peter McKenna and Doug Wade and, Bob Pratt and Peter Hudson and Lockett and Dunstall, Dickie Lee. These are just names that made the game great. But those players and that type of player is no longer in the game.
I would say this,
disappointing
Kevin,
for the game of Australian rules footy.
Kevin, I would say this. There was the period, of course, the arrival of the 100-goal goal kicker. We had the great Gordon Coventry. There was Bill Moore at St Kilda, Jack Titus at Richmond. Geelong had a 100-goal goal kicker. And, of course, the great Bob Pratt. And then...
That young boy, Zach Williams, on the bench, he's had a lot of injuries, Finey.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that there was a period in the 30s and 20s where we had Coventry and Pratt, Moore of St Kilda, Titus kicked 100 goals. The guy at Geelong kicked 100 goals. And then, after the war, in the 50s and 60s...
Phillips has just kicked
another one. Phillips.
Yeah.
Kevin, in the 50s and 60s, there was a period where every, Peck and guys like that, no one was kicking more than 70 goals a year. And then along came McKenna and Doug Wade and Jezza. So there was a 20-year period between the great 100-goal kickers where there were no century goals kicked. Hopefully we're going through that period and we'll come out of it. Is that possible?
Mark, from my point of view, I don't think, or it will be a long time before we have 100 goal kicker a year, per year. Just the way I see the game, the way it's played, I can see a Lynch kicking 30 or 40, Rewalt 30 or 40 a year, but that's about all. I can't see 100. 100 goals. It's a big ask in this type of game that we play now, called football. It's a big ask.
And especially since back in those days, even that most recent generation of 100-season goal kickers, they would often have so many one-on-one contests and marking one-on-one. And in the good sides like Dunstall and these guys, they would get the bullet passes lace out on their chest, or they'd be one out to take a mark, and they'd end up having 10 or 12 shots at goal in a game. And the better ones, they would quite often kick 8 or 9 in a game, which just sounds just almost absurd these days. When we're talking about sides be lucky to kick 8 or 9 for the whole team. So I think a lot of the one-on-one contests is because they've gone now because of the congestion and all that. It's hard to imagine that ever coming back. The 100 a year goal kicker. Now it's going to be. It was all square at half time. There's going to be a point in it at 3/4 time. You're going to go out on a limb. Who's going to win this, Kinky?
Well, it's going to be tough hard football the last quarter. I can't call it, but I like the fact that we're hanging in there. We're coming back at them.
Let's face it, it could easily be a draw.
Yeah.
Could go anyway.
We need another draw. It's only been a fortnight.
I reckon it's been a pretty good game.
Oh, it's been a good game to watch. There's been a lot of highlights. Phillips has just kicked 2 on his left foot in heavy traffic. You don't see that too often.
Myercheck's kicked 1 from midair and 1 a snap from to go. The hand pass from to go. They were both great goals. Toby Green's been a ripper. There's been plenty of highlights.
Yeah.
Well, how about this one off the SMS from Daru Minafi? I'm from the USA, and the AFL is an amazing sport.
Nice to hear from you, Daru. I wonder what part of the US he's from. Not that it's of any great relevance, but there is a real groundswell of support, isn't there, at the moment, coming out of America for the AFL?
Well, probably they're seeing more of it than they've ever seen before. You know, they've got the opportunity to watch it. You can watch it, you know, on any of your devices that you've got now. But Australian rules football, we've always believed, we believe it's been the greatest game in the world. And Daru is from California because it's got so many great attributes to it. I mean, it's got marking, it's got kicking, it's got running, it's got handball, it's got contesting, it's got 360 degrees in terms of playing the game. It's played on the biggest surface with the most number of players on the ground. So it's always got some great attributes, iconic features of the game that makes it great. It'd be interesting to see if Daru could watch some of the games like the 89 grand final, or watch St Kilda play Geelong in that 91 final, or watch Richmond play Carlton in 28-22, or Hawthorn play Geelong in that big game at Princes Park, and see whether or not he notices the difference between games of football that used to be played, say, in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and maybe in the very early 90s, compared to what he's watching now.
Yeah.
But because it's got these attributes where, you know, there's no padding and players jump in the air and take marks and crash into each other and tackle and, you know, kick the ball, you know, sideways and hit targets and things like that, you can understand people who have never seen the game thinking, well, this is quite an extraordinary game, because it's no other game on the planet like Australian rules football.
Yeah, that's what we do. The question I'd like to ask all you guys, who does Toby Green remind you of 20, 30, 40 years ago as a footballer? Who's his closest type football you would put Toby Green with? Because
I've got someone he reminds me of a lot.
Because my angle comes from that little bit of nastiness, a little bit of smart ass. I'm good. Yeah. And I'm going to give you a whack in the gob, and I'm going to kick the next goal, you know?
Mine too.
So who are you suggesting, gentlemen?
Well, I reckon, even though he's obviously shorter than this player, I reckon he marks in a very similar style to this player and has a similar attitude to this player. It reminds me of Peter Buzzusto.
Finally, I was just about to say Peter Buzzusto, and the reason... the way Toby Green took that last mark,
that's the way he marks
the sort of mark. Buzzusto would always just get the sit and the hang behind a bloke, not stand on his head. He did that a couple of times.
No,
that was the sort of marks he would take.
Yeah,
he had a bit of nasty, and a fair bit of personality about him as well.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Kev?
Good call.
Well, I mean, he can. But Zusto was probably a little bit more flamboyant than Toby Green. I suppose if you compared the two of them, you'd say Toby Green is more workmanlike than Buzzusto, but he can do the brilliant passages of play, no doubt about that. And you mentioned about taking that mark. But Buzzusto was probably a little bit more athletic and had a bit more flamboyancy about him, the way that he plays. He didn't play a lot of games, the Buzz, did he, for Carlton?
No.
Well, I reckon in the modern game, he's as close as you'll get.
Yeah.
Because he's very interesting and very hard to match up
one year, the Buzz, he won Goal of the Year and Mark of the Year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Took that big mark at Princes Park.
Yep.
Yeah, took the big mark at Princes Park, and then he smothered that kick, didn't he, of Nankervis on the boundary line out at Waverley, and then picked it up and snapped it.
Yeah, that's right. Took the mark over Johnny Mossop.
Here we go.
Then he went back to Perth, and what did he do? He hit a pane glass window or something, didn't he? And badly lacerated his arm, and took a lot of stitches, and it was a very, very nasty injury.
Yeah, he comes to Melbourne a lot. He's a ripping bloke.
Yeah, great fellow.
Yeah, good fun.
He was a good friend of Tommy Hafey's, the Buzz. So I can remember when Tommy was ill in hospital and going along and visiting Tom, that on a couple of occasions the Buzz was there, which was terrific, along with Mark Jackson. They were pretty good mates.
Well, they did a lot of sporties together.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tommy always had a big rap for Mark because he averaged 3 goals a game, Mark Jackson.
So Whitfield's had 21 possessions. Williams has had 21, 17 to Kelly. Toby Green's kicked 3 goals. Howe's had 21. Gee, that's a great effort across half back. 18 to Maynard, and Darcy Moore, your favourite, Rene's had it 16 times as well.
Already, he's got up to 16. Interesting. He needed to.
Daru from California said he used to see this sport, Australian rules football, come on ESPN when he was younger. Sport always followed him, but he just never knew what it was. Once a year, he said he would catch it, but just to see a full crowd in the sport, I had no clue about what game it was. But, under, I suppose all the devices we've got now, it's fantastic in terms of other people watching this game around the world. Although it'll never be played anywhere else in the world at any high level other than this country.
No, and I wouldn't worry about that. I really wouldn't.
No, I'm not. I think it's always been a waste of time thinking about taking the game to other parts of the world. I mean, America, they've got basketball, they've got gridiron, they've got baseball, they've got NASCAR racing. No room for Australian rules football. In Europe, they've got soccer. They've got snow sports. No room for Australian rules football.
Our oval is too big. Nobody's just going to, set aside that amount of ground. Amazing stat came up on screen on the footy. Collingwood are yet to concede a goal in the last quarter in 3 games this season.
Well, that's going to test the Giants then.
That's it, Then again, sometimes these stats, they bust like a damn wall, don't they?
Yeah. They're only a good stat until they're broken.
Yeah, that's right. There's no, they're a good team, but there's no reason they will not concede anything.
They've been dominating in terms of the hitouts with Grundy in the ruck, obviously 42-14. The stat went up, but I still feel the Giants are going to be pretty happy with having Mumford back in the side. Just give them that little bit of grunt, bit of presence.
Yep. Oh, scores are level.
Ring the bell.
We've got the close one.
Now, Kevin, you say Collingwood have had most of the hit-outs through Grundy, but clearances 26 apiece at this stage.
Yeah.
So the Giants have read them pretty well off Brady's hands.
They have, and the fact that we mentioned at half time that a couple of their star midfielders hadn't had much of the ball, so they've had to work pretty hard in the midfield, the Giants, and they've done it well.
Yeah.
That's really poor umpiring. That was a mark by Toby Green.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Oh, every day of the week.
That's not a free kick either. That's a terrible decision.
Maybe a square up there, Renee.
Terrible decision.
Or as they say in Latvian, the square upski.
Possibly. Come on. Good.
Bowled him.
Bad kick, unfortunately.
Umpire.
He's been very slippery tonight, Stevenson, hasn't he? He's been able to...
he looks dangerous every time he goes near it.
Yeah, very dangerous. Good ball. He's beaten 2. Well done. Around the neck? No.
Oh, Renee.
I'm just hoping and praying at the moment. It's in our forward line.
Have a look at that shot on the TV screen there. 2/3 of the ground completely empty.
Crazy.
That's
good tackle.
Great tackle. Whitfield.
That's what I told you before, Renee. He does all aspects of the game, and he does all those aspects very, very well.
Who's that?
Lockie Whitfield.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I reckon he's been best on ground tonight.
Yeah.
And he's not super big. I mean, he's in terms of muscles on muscles, but he does most things pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty balanced and holds his composure very well, doesn't he?
He's like Fred DiBiase, the old wrestler, Serge. You know what they used to? You know what his nickname was?
Yeah.
Classy Fred DiBiase. And he is classy.
They keep coming, Collingwood.
There's one for you, Renee.
Oh, no, he's got one, finally.
Yeah.
Bad.
Trouble.
Ugly.
Dragged it in. Free to Collingwood. That's a Collingwood ball if I've ever seen one. Free kick.
That's never.
Oh, Pendlebury's conned it. It wasn't him. It was Phillips. Look at
Yeah.
this.
Oh, he has paid it.
Yeah, but it was Phillips's free.
Yeah.
And Pendlebury's taken it. Oh, dear me, umpire, you've been conned.
He dived in the last second.
He dragged it in, but he hit it out between his legs. And the umpire didn't see it.
Oh, Pendlebury kicks this. The umpire will have egg on his face.
He has. No.
It's just like, he's starting to get back into the game, though, Pendlebury, isn't he?
He's what?
He's getting into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this last quarter he's taken it up a cock, hasn't he? He's leading by example.
He's a campaign. One of the best I've ever seen. Play on.
Just put up a stat. The Giants have been in front for 45 minutes, about 45 minutes, and Collingwood's been in front for about 9. They're in front now by a point, 55 to 54. How have you seen the battle between Darcy Moore, Renee, and Jeremy Cameron?
Yeah, I think it's pretty even. How many goals has Cameron got? 2, 1 or 2? 3, 2, 3?
Moore's done him like a dinner.
Yeah, it's been a good contest. Be a very hard play to play on, Cameron, because he's a left footer.
So you said before, Finey, that
Oh, what a turnover.
Who kicked that?
Maynard!
He's had a stinker tonight, Maynard.
He's playing like Maynard G. Krebs. Oh, Maynard.
you said before, Finey, that no one's kicked a goal against him in the last quarter. Is that right?
Yeah, but then again, Maynard has not been helping as he did then.
He's cost him 2 goals with shocking mistakes, Maynard.
So
And
kick off the ground.
That'll be the difference.
That was
Kick
4
off the
metre
ground
pass.
by Kelly, so kicks a
But
goal.
you know what? He's a good kid,
5
Maynard.
points.
He'll fight on. He's a good kid.
Oh, he'll be all right.
Yeah.
But he's battling tonight.
Yeah, it's whether or not he can pull it together tonight.
What about Chris Mayne tonight? Have we seen much of him?
Very
He
quiet.
kicked the ground with his foot.
Maine often has a direct opponent. Maybe he's done well in that regard.
That was a terrific bit of play by Green, Toby Green. He was just good enough to get his foot to the ball, and in heavy traffic, just to toe poke that forward, and that enabled Kelly to kick it off the ground.
Very
Buckley.
possessive, Kevin.
Very true. Very true there.
No, the Buzz would have tried to kick it
Touche.
himself.
Well, I'm not saying Toby Green didn't try and kick it himself, but he got the ball moving in the right direction, which was good enough for him to kick a goal.
Oh, well done. Not so well done.
He's a very good player, Haynes. Haynes is a very, very good player.
Yeah, he's very solid, isn't he? He's not fancy, but he's
played
very
in
solid.
front then, so good players play in front, read the ball, read it well.
That
Finding
was much better there by Maynard. And not only did he block Toby
50
Green,
metres. 50 metres against Toby.
well, that was great play by Maynard. Look at Maynard here, keeping him out of the contest. Well done. Good work, son. Well done, Maynard.
Was it worth 50?
Yep. Yeah. Silly, Toby. Toby, silly.
Bit of a nasty one.
Oh, Toby. And can I tell you, I've met Toby Green,
Yeah.
and he's a really lovely kid. He's a really decent kid.
Yeah.
things haven't been that easy for him all his life for certain reasons. And I'm telling you, he's a really good kid. He really is.
He's a wonderful natural footballer too. He's not a basketballer. He's not an athlete. I mean, he could probably turn his hand to all that. But he's just one of those kids you go, that kid can really play football, you know? And they're not as easy to spot these days as they used to be.
Yeah. You know, he's a kid that had a bit of an incident, or quite an incident when he started his career. And often people like that often, you know, are always in the headlines. But he has stayed out of them ever since. He really has. Off field, he really has worked hard.
Oh, test the ball.
Another terrific mark by Haynes in defence. He's
going good.
He's hard to pass.
Yep.
Finey, why isn't his nickname Desmond? That's what I'd like to know. Yeah.
Because he doesn't go onto the field wearing a beautiful 18-karat gold bracelet and necklace.
We need something out of Maya check on the forward line.
So in this last quarter, Collingwood's had it 83% inside their forward line. In this last quarter, the 17%. And they trail by 4 points.
You know, I was lucky enough one night to be in a group of people with my absolute childhood hero, Viv Richards.
Oh, really?
And we went to the motel before it burnt down, you know, in South Melbourne.
Yep. No, well.
And just before we went in there, somebody said something to Viv, obviously, you know, looking forward to going in there. Do you know what he said? I'll have the run of the place as long as Desmond Haynes isn't in there.
He was a big cardio too, was he?
Says it all to me about Desi and Vivi. And let me tell you, Vivi was
he didn't struggle either.
Vivi at that point had already lifted his bat for his half century. And he was still doing good work.
Around the neck.
Looks like it's all just gone up a notch here, boys.
Oh, that is painful for Jeremy Howe. Oh, dear. I hope it's just a knock.
Oh. He's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, he's holding his knee. I just hope it's just heavy bruising because it was a clash of knees. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Got bent badly.
Oh, no. Oh, please no, because he is what the game cannot do without.
So what we had Hopper and Howe both going for the ball, and they're clashed bodies, but his leg has been taken from underneath him as well. Yeah, Hopper's bending down for the ball with his hands, so he's allowed to do that.
Oh, sure. It's in slow motion. It's that hyper extension of the knee that's the worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the worst thing is, you know, with the ACL, when it happens, it's extremely painful, but then the pain goes away.
Yeah.
In fact, some players have played. Lenny Hayes did his ACL and played the whole second half.
It's funny. It's sad in this case, sliding doors. Just a few seconds ago, he was held without the ball close to the boundary line.
He should have
got a free kick. If he gets that free kick, the ball's down the other end of the ground. Now he doesn't get that free kick, and then a few seconds later, all of a sudden, his leg's taken from him in a contest, and he may have a serious injury. So, sliding doors in football, it's incredible.
I used to say that right throughout your career, Kevin. I used to say, well, if the ball would have bounced the other way, maybe that bastard Bartlett would have done his knee, but it never happened.
And Stephen Milne would have kicked a goal too.
Yeah, what's the saying? If St Anne's were pots and pans, oh, to be a tinker.
Now, gentlemen, Daru, our mate from California, has come through again. He's obviously heard us talking and wants to know what a disposal is. So, Daru, generally, disposal is just an all-encompassing word for either a kick or a handball. Yeah. So, if you've had 12 kicks and 5 handballs, you can safely say you've had 15 disposals. It's just a pretty simple one, that one.
Gentlemen, It has been an absolute pleasure. I have got after the game I do with Rowan Connolly, Footyology Final Sign. So I'm off to do that broadcast.
Free kick, Collingwood.
I leave you with the game on a knife edge. I just want to go around the panel. Renee, who's going to win it?
Well, let's see what happens with this goal, Mark.
Renee probably has the shot.
Don't go before he kicks this.
Kevin, who's going to win this game?
I'm going to go for the Giants by a point.
Serge?
I'd like to see the Giants win, but I suspect Collingwood are going to get over the line.
Let's see what happens.
Kick this, Brownie.
Callum Brown.
Not enough on it.
That's a rewatch. See you, boys. Loved it.
See you, Finey.
See you, mate.
Fine.
Say hello to Rocco.
That was like a 3-quarter kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just didn't really punch through it enough.
Didn't try to overkick it, but do something to that now.
But you see Pendlebury then, he suddenly comes good in the last quarter when they need him.
Yeah, he's done that all
Hoskin
year.
Elliott, of course, played with the Giants.
Who's that, Kevin?
Hoskin Elliott's having a shot.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
play with the Giants, so he's got a chance to put the Pies back in front. They trail by 3 points, 60-57. 6.5 minutes left in the game. It's a good kick on its way.
Nice
Not
kick.
quite
Nice
get the distance
kick.
as it did, but it hits the post. Might have been dropping too. Collingwood's had the ball in their forward line, roughly, as I said before, about 85% of the time.
Yeah.
I just need to break through, and I reckon they'll win this game.
Well, the Giants, have won 4 of the last 5, so they've just got a pretty good record against the Pies at the moment. They certainly have played a lot better than they have in the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of urgency in their game tonight. They've really, really cracked in pretty hard.
See, Jeremy Cameron kicked that from the wing up to a forward line, and the ball just landed there where he should have been, really.
Come on, do something, Cox. Do something.
He's now in the back pocket, Jeremy Cameron.
There's Whitfield again.
Could you imagine Tony Lockett or Dunstall being in the back pocket?
Could you imagine telling Tony Lockett to go to the back pocket?
Or Peter McKenna? There's Peter McKenna. He's bobbed up in the back pocket. I don't think we ever heard that, did we?
I don't think so.
No. Terrible kick.
Lack of talk there.
Oh, Mark, 2 of you. Hold the ball.
So just 5 minutes, 11 seconds left. They lead by 2 points. Pendlebury's got 23 disposals now. He had 5 or 6 at half time. So he's had a big second half. Tried to get Pies back into the game.
There's Cameron.
It's a very good mark. Very good mark by Cameron out in front. Not an easy mark to take, but he's between half back and centre wing.
And 50
He's got
metres.
a 50-metre penalty.
Oh, what for?
Was that for the running through? They've stopped doing that.
It's all very well for Cameron to be up on the half-back flank getting the ball, but you'd like him to be where he gets some goals. That's Tom Green then. Should have nearly taken that mark, that young boy. Kicked the goal.
He probably should have taken the kick when he on his first balk then.
Yes. But still, it's only his second game. He's shown a lot tonight, a lot of promise.
Pendlebury again.
Long. Let's go long with it.
Really took a specky that time. It's going to be, as we see with these close games, it's going to be a tough last 4 minutes, Renee. That was good play by Green then. That was big Tom Green. Terrific play.
Smart player, isn't he?
Yeah, this is what Cameron is good at, Renee. He's a very good kick. And he's, 50 metres out and he's on a 45-degree angle. But he's got as much chance of kicking this than anyone else in the competition, I reckon.
Yeah, right. So he's a left footer. He's on the right side.
This is a big, big kick for the Giants.
Yeah, they kick a goal here. It's all over. Shut the shop.
Have a look at that.
Straighten up. Oh, yeah, he got it.
Yeah.
He's one of the few players in the competition that, you know, you'd think, you know
can
what, he
rely
can
on
kick
to
this.
do that.
He is a magnificent kick. And that's what always makes him dangerous, because he does have games where he might only have 8 or 9 possessions, but he can kick 3 goals, because if he gets an opportunity, he's one of those players who does seize his opportunities at kicking goals.
Yeah. Well, it's like Toby Green.
That's a great kick under the pressure that he was under, and at this stage of the game. So we've got 3.5 minutes left, and they lead by 8 points. The Giants.
Yeah, Collingwood need 2 goals in 3.5 minutes.
And you see there, it was Mumford just with his body leaning against Grundy. They got it down to Tom Green.
But that was very nice body work by Tom Green. The sidestep and holding the ball out.
I know, he's a good young player.
Yeah, bit of maturity there.
What was he in the draft, Tom Green? Where did he go in the draft? What number?
I'm not sure, Rene, but he was not top 10. I don't think he was first round.
It was a good pickup.
No.
Kick it along.
He was taken as an academy kid.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I said I like grandson rules, and that being the case, Serge, he could have been playing with the Tigers.
Oh, there you go, Rene. Big fella.
Well, it depends how far out he is, because he can only kick at about 40.
I was about to say,
40's his limit.
Would you be backing him here like you just backed Jeremy Cameron? I don't think so.
I just want to see how far out he is.
Yeah.
He's quite accurate from about 25 metres.
A bit late to be the hero.
If he gets this, there's plenty of time, though. Yep, bang.
Yep. He was what 30 metres out?
Yeah.
30, 35. That's about his limit. 40 would be his absolute limit.
See, that's what he did against the Tigers in the preliminary final. If they kick it long, but they wait the kick so the ball is dropping. If he's in front and he can run at the ball and leap at full stretch, well, I mean, obviously it's very difficult to outmark. So whoever's playing on him has got to be aware, not to give away the free kick, but he's got to make certain that before the ball is kicked, that he gets in front of him so he can't get his run. But to allow him to get that full run and then at full stretch, very difficult to beat him.
And he got his full run there from about a 40-degree angle. Did it easy.
2 points. We need a goal still.
So 2-point ball game. What was 1 point at what, 3/4 time? Or was
All square at halftime.
All square at halftime.
I like a close one, these two teams.
Well, the Giants, got to keep their season alive, don't they? There's Hopper.
Caniglio.
Yeah.
Oh, I needed to hold that. Woodfield.
Yeah.
Long.
Oh, good tackle.
Good tackle.
That was Perryman, I think. Or Haitley. It might have been Haitley.
Nice kick.
It was a good kick by Callum Ward, wasn't it? You know, it was beautifully weighted. So down to the last
minute and a half.
95 seconds, minute and a half. So Haynes has just got to kick the ball as far as he can to the half-forward line, down the line. So off the back of the pack here, they needed to. That might have been caught high then. Might have been a free kick. Toby Green.
It was a
He's
free
been
kick
terrific.
there too, didn't he?
No, did he paid it? No, he didn't. He didn't pay it as a free kick for around the neck.
They fair dinkum hate Toby Green.
That looked like a free kick then too.
Oh, easily.
To Josh Kelly, who was being held. As Teddy Whitten used to say, they've put the whistle away.
Yeah.
Hit the boundary line, Serge and Renee.
Yeah. The boundary line's your friend. I remember.
Yeah, hit the boundary line and put the whistle away. I reckon in the last 10 minutes of a grand final, Teddy reckons that you could murder people. It wouldn't matter. You know, you weren't supposed to pay a free kick in the last 10 minutes of a grand final, according to Ted.
As Sam Kekovich said when
So
he
we've got a minute
coached.
left.
Sam Kekovich said when he coached, if
It's
all
on
else
the interchange
fails,
gate, so
all
these
else fails,
stoppages are very crucial now.
seek the sanctuary of the boundary line. Yeah.
Canterbury again.
Gee, I tell you what, Tom Green has been terrific in the last couple of contests for the Giants.
He's a competitor, Kevin.
Yeah, putting his body on the line, you know, in close. He's done very well. So down to 39 seconds. When you see Leon Cameron walking, Serge and Renee, he certainly needs a hip replacement or something, doesn't he? Or knee replacement.
He's got the wobbles.
He looks
doesn't
like
he?
Hopalong Cassidy.
Yeah, that's it. Sit on it. It's all over.
Okay. Down to the last 29 seconds. There's Tom Green again. Can you believe it? How good has he been? They'll get this deliberate. So there's 19 seconds left. Toby Green just kicked that just too wide then. He probably didn't need to kick it as wide as that. There was a lot of space open to him. This is an important pack mark here. Tom Green again. Can you? My goodness, that's been terrific in this last quarter.
You might have to sneak him into your votes, Kevin. If we were
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, for a young kid, he's been involved in 5 or 6 contests in this last quarter, which have been extraordinary. They're going to win it now by 2 points. I'm a bad judge. I said 1 point.
Yeah, he did say 1. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, but
That's a big win for the Giants.
It is.
Final sign, 10-6-66 to 9-10-64. The Giants have beaten Collingwood by 2 points. That's a huge win. Steve Ward, very, very happy there. He's happy as when he made the century. He should have pulled out the red handkerchief and just wiped his face or something, shouldn't he?
I think GWS missed a couple of easy
that was
goals.
a much better effort by the Giants.
Yeah.
They played with a lot of urgency right from the opening bounce tonight. I mean, Collingwood's one of the best sides in the competition because the last couple of weeks they've been a little bit insipid. As I said before, Mumford gives them a bit of presence, you know. Now, he may not be able to see out the year, although it's a shortened year, and this is his first game for the year, round 4. But we did see the end of last year that in the end he had some injuries, but he couldn't get off the ground and nearly was a liability. But if he's fresh, if they can maybe pick the games for him, you know, if you can do that these days, and maybe Jacobs can play a couple of games when, you know, they can try and freshen up Mumford. But in the big games, I think they need his physicality there, just his presence on the field. He makes a lot of their players walk taller. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
And interestingly, he didn't play last week against the Bulldogs when the Giants came out and tried to do the intimidation and start belting a few heads around, and they got their ass handed to them by the Bulldogs. Tonight they came out and they just played good footy because they're a team of good footballers, and they got past Collingwood.
I reckon last week they just lost their focus last week in that, attacking Bontempelli, and you know, you all that bravado stuff. As I said before, Serge, doesn't mean much if you can't make it all happen on the scoreboard. You know, they seem to be too obsessed with, you know, trying to upset Bontempelli and Bulldogs players, and forgot about, you know, getting in hard and winning the ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, and with their ins this week too, with Kelly, as you just saw.
Just can't hear Renee at the moment.
Can't you hear me?
Sorry, Renee, just can't hear.
No.
Well, it was a good game.
Now, they didn't have Davis for a good part of that game. Not quite certain what his injury is, and also Zach Williams. They lost Zach Williams as well. So two of their key defenders, one a tall and one a running small defender.
I know it was late in the game and probably didn't affect the outcome, but let's all hope Jeremy Howe's okay too. I hope his knee's all right.
Oh, yes. Gee, that looked nasty in that collision with Hopper. Accidental where the legs got tangled and his legs certainly went back at an angle. So and he was in a lot of pain for a very short period of time. So we keep our fingers crossed because he's one of the few players who gets people on their feet in AFL football these days. But Davis is an important player for the Giants as their big key defender. Because I don't know of a side, Renee and Serge, that has had so many injured players consistently over the last 3 or 4 years than the Giants. Always
especially with their list.
Or through illness or appendicitis. Just some extraordinary things happen to the Giants. So keep our fingers crossed that Williams and also Davis is okay. And, of course, big fingers crossed for Jeremy Howe.
Yeah, it's been a very good game, an excellent game, hasn't it?
He's sure just having a chat with his old captain there, his premiership captain in Maxwell.
No, as you say, Kevin, I think this might have straightened out the Giants, got them right back on track. I'll give it a shake from here on in. And Toby Green, as you say, having a chat. He's just a terrific footballer.
They've got to play the Tigers soon. I'll try. They may even have to play them next week. I'll try and find out.
All right, gentlemen, we might have to wrap things up there. It's been another big night on your Takeover TV. Love you if you're still watching, Daru. Love you to have you in from California, and hope we see you again next week. So, gentlemen, to Renee Kink, Kevin Bartlett, and Finey, who's already left the building, like Elvis. We'll see you next week on Takeover.
Okay, see you guys.
See you, Renee.